Hi, good evening, and welcome to the October 27th, 2025 special hearing of the Immigrant Rights Commission on immigration enforcement and San Francisco local response efforts. This meeting is called to order. May I ask Clerk Shore to please call the roll?
Thank you. Chair Sousa?
Here.
Vice Chair Chowdhury?
Here.
Commissioner Abdu?
Here.
Commissioner Aljaran? Is not yet here. Commissioner Farah?
Present.
Commissioner Ung?
Here.
Commissioner Obregon?
Here.
Commissioner Paz?
Here.
Commissioner Batanapakti?
Here.
Commissioner Ruiz?
Here.
Thank you. We have a quorum, and Commissioners Wong and Kennelly are excused.
Thank you, Clerk Shore. We're moving to item 2, land acknowledgement. We, the San Francisco Immigrant Rights Commission, acknowledge that we are on the unceded ancestral homeland of the Ramaytush Ohlone, who are the original inhabitants of the San Francisco Peninsula. As the indigenous stewards of this land and in accordance with their traditions, the Ramaytush Ohlone have never ceded, lost, nor forgotten their responsibilities as the caretakers of this place, as well as for all people who reside in their traditional territory. As guests, we recognize that we benefit from living and working on their traditional homeland. We wish to pay our respects by acknowledging the ancestors, elders, and relatives of the Ramaytush community, and by affirming their sovereign rights as First Peoples. Now we're moving to item 3, which includes announcements and general public comment. But before I move on to general public comment, I will pass it to Director Rivas to allow him to provide announcements on interpretation services and additional information pertaining to the hearing today. Director Rivas.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Tonight's meeting is being interpreted in Spanish, Cantonese, Filipino, and Arabic. If you would like to listen to this meeting in Spanish, Cantonese, Filipino, or Arabic, headsets are available through the interpretation coordinator right outside the hearing room. We will now ask the interpreters to come up to the microphone on the podium to make the announcement in each language.
Buenas noches, los servicios de interpretación están disponibles. Si desea recibir un dispositivo, está en la mesa allá afuera donde está la coordinadora. Gracias.
大家晚安，我哋今日嘅聽證會係會有廣東話傳譯服務嘅。如果你有需要嘅話咧，可以去外面攞個耳機收聽。唔該晒。
Magandang gabi po. May pagsasalin wika po tayo sa gabing ito sa Spanish, sa Cantonese at sa Filipino at Arabo. Kung nais po ninyong makinig, nandun po sa labas ang ating mga kagamitan. Maraming salamat po.
مساء الخير. إذا حدا محتاج ترجمة باللغة العربية هناك موجود مترجمين اثنين معنا الليلة وجهاز الترجمة للحصول عليه موجود في الخارج والخدمة جاهزة في هذه الليلة. شكرا.
Thank you to our interpreters. And a few reminders for today's meeting. Please silence all cell phones and devices so that speakers and commissioners can be heard. To all our speakers and commissioners, we would like to remind you to speak slowly for our interpreters. If you're running out of time, please try to be concise. Members of the public who wish to make comments should line up by the podium when public comment is called. If you wish to make a comment in a language other than English, please let us know so you can be joined by the interpreter. Speakers using interpretation assistance will be allowed twice the amount of normal time. All participants and attendees are expected to behave responsibly and respectfully. During public comment, please address your comments to the Commission as a whole and not individuals, or to the speakers and presenters of today. Persons who engage in name-calling, shouting, interruptions, or other distracting behavior may be excluded from participating. This is a public meeting and it's being recorded. A reminder to please speak into the microphone so you can be heard clearly. Thank you. Back to you, Chair.
Thank you, Director Rivas. And now we're moving to the general public comment portion. This portion of the item allow members of the public to address the commission on matters that are within the subject matter jurisdiction of the commission and that do not appear on today's agenda. And each public commenter will have 2 minutes to address the commission. Do we have any general public comment today? And again, this is not pertaining to the special hearing. It's just general public comment.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you, Commissioners Sada and everybody else here. My name is Nikki Tresvina. My credentials include being a native San Franciscan, a senior, an individual that works with seniors at the Community Living Campaign, and the daughter of my parents who lived to 195 years old under the care of tremendously loving and extremely professional caregivers. So Immigrant Rights Commission, thank you, and thank Mayor Lori for standing up to the president and diverting federal troops from entering our city and further terrorizing our immigrant brothers and sisters. Many believe this is only temporary, and I am imploring that you and the mayor do even more and follow in the footsteps of our neighboring cities and adopt non-collaborative legislation and declare specific city property as ICE-free zones. I also speak as a senior who depends on the professional work and
I'm sorry.
expertise.
So this is general public comment, not pertaining to the hearing today. I'm sorry, I have to interrupt you.
Can I speak later?
Yes,
Okay,
later. Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you, Nikki.
Thank you.
Anyone else for general public comment?
Since November 1st is coming and the parking restrictions for the unhoused residents, vehicularly housed residents, many of them immigrants, the 2-hour parking limit, as far as I know today, this morning, I haven't heard anything to the contrary, but it's supposed to start November 1st, and it's cruel, especially now, considering our politics. And if there's anything we can do, Mayor Lori, I think that would be the honest and decent thing to do. Also, my question is, and maybe it's on people's radars, I'm concerned about SROs and ICE coming in. Yes, they can do their apartment thing or, in units, but as far as, the management, the little glass booth, and maybe people are there or not. And I want to know, maybe our speakers can include that in their comments about what's happening policy-wise with that, if anything.
Thank you for your public comment.
Thank you all.
Anyone else?
Hi, my name is Alex Phillips, and I speak to you today as an advisory board of the Castro LGBTQ Cultural District, who is a fiscally sponsored project of the San Francisco Lesbian, Gay, Bisexual, Transgender Community Center. The district acknowledges that queer and trans immigrants are negatively impacted by the threat of immigration modernization from the federal government and wants to support efforts to maintain safety for immigrants. We hope this commission coordinates with the Human Rights Commission of San Francisco and staff from the Office of Civic Engagement and Immigrant Affairs to strengthen protections on the city level and requests to be informed of how we can support this via messaging on social media and at our own in-person events. During times of chaos and misinformation, we request a comprehensive plan from the city and its departments on how to prepare, respond, and protect our immigrant communities that greatly contributes to the vibrant and powerful essence of San Francisco as a world-class city and an international hub of diverse culture, language, and heritage. The mission of the Castro LGBTQ Cultural District is commissioned to preserve, sustaining, and promoting the rich cultural legacy of the Castro and its significance to San Francisco's LGBTQ community and beyond. Our goals are to highlight the structures and sites important to our history, foster racial, ethnic, and gender and cultural diversity among residents and businesses. And
Thank you. Thank you for your comment.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else for general public comment? Okay, so I will close this item and move to item 3, which is IRC hearing on immigration enforcement and San Francisco's local response efforts. So I will move to 3A. First and foremost,
It's 4A.
oh, 4A, I mean 4A. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. It's 4A. This item will allow us to introduce, give some context about the hearing and what to expect. First and foremost, I want to emphasize the importance of this hearing for San Francisco immigrant communities and want to acknowledge Commissioner Obregon's leadership in leading the planning of this special hearing. Also want to thank Director Rivas and the entire CS team for your work and support. So I'll now pass to Commissioner Obregon and Director Rivas.
Thank you. Is this on? Thank you, Commissioner. I appreciate the shout out, and I really just want to acknowledge and thank you, all of you, for making this a priority, and thank you for the OCS staff for making this happen and really taking an important role in the logistical support. And I also want to thank community members who are here. I want to take the time to acknowledge that this has been a hard week for all of us. It's very scary to hear that the federal government and federal agencies can come here into our city. And I just want to assure every community member here that all of the people sitting here in the commission take this deeply personal. We are all deeply impacted, and we want to send a message that you're not alone. This week I've heard many stories about people and community members living in fear, not wanting to go to work, not wanting to go to school or attend after school programs or organizations in fear of family separation. But I've also heard many stories of community members stepping up and taking care of each other, offering people school rides, walking each other to work, delivering food, supporting businesses. And that's because it's not just happening to immigrants, it's happening to all of us. And I just really admire the resilience and the quickness in which SF residents responded to this emergency. Because sanctuary city is not just about an ordinance or a law, it's about a value, and it represents San Francisco. And that's really how we show up for each other. And so thank you for taking the time to come here. This hearing is about listening and asking questions so that we can then make recommendations to the city of San Francisco on how we should be responding, or what should we do more of or less of. And so thank you all for taking the time to come here, and thank you to our presenters.
Thank you, Commissioner Obregon. I just wanted to check if Director Rivas had anything to add, but it seems
Not at this time.
not at this time. Thank you. Thank you so much for all the speakers for joining us this evening and to provide an update on the federal immigration in San Francisco and what the city is doing to respond to community needs and what resources are available for individuals, families, and small businesses. We'll proceed now with speakers. After the conclusion of their presentations, we'll allow time for commissioners to ask questions related to the information provided by the speakers. So now I will call the first speaker, which is Director Millie Atkinson from San Francisco Immigrant Legal Defense Program and Justice and Diversity Center of the Bar Association of San Francisco. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. So I'm here on behalf of the San Francisco Immigrant Legal Defense Collaborative. We are a group of 15 nonprofit organizations in San Francisco that provide direct legal services and representation before the Immigration Court in San Francisco. Together, the 15 agencies are listed here on the slide, but we also work with the San Francisco Immigrant Legal Education Network, which is a collaborative in San Francisco that also includes outreach and education services, and the San Francisco Rapid Response Network. San Francisco Immigrant Legal Education Network handles the hotline side, whereas the San Francisco Immigrant Legal Defense Collaborative provides the attorney response when we get confirmation of arrest by ICE in San Francisco. So as part of ILDC, we provide full scope legal representation to over 1,000 San Francisco residents before the San Francisco Immigration Court between our 15 partners. We also offer limited scope representation and services through our Attorney of the Day program, where we have our SFILDC and volunteer attorneys appear at the immigration court and offer free legal consultations to anyone who appears there without an attorney. And then we also operate the emergency response for the San Francisco Rapid Response Hotline. We are also maintaining a database of over 1,600 San Francisco residents who are in need of legal representation before the San Francisco Immigration Court, because unlike criminal court, the government will not provide an attorney to someone appearing at the immigration court. And this includes children and people who are mentally disabled or lack capacity to represent themselves. They are expected to hire an attorney or defend themselves in immigration court. And finally, this year, we began programs cooperating with OSEA and the San Francisco Immigrant Legal Education Network to provide more opportunities for volunteers to support our work, as well as more clinics, regular clinics for the community. So specifically talking about ICE enforcement trends, we are seeing a huge jump in the number of arrests nationally by ICE. In 2024, nationally, we saw an average of about 300 arrests per day. And this year, we've heard announcements from the administration and news media outlets that their goal is to hit 3,000 arrests per day nationally. Within a month or two of the inauguration, we saw arrests jump from that 300 a day number up to about 750 a day within a month. And starting in June, they've regularly been arresting up to 1,000 individuals every day nationally. So in San Francisco, what we've seen is we've gotten over 45 to 50 calls where we were confirmed that a San Francisco resident was arrested and detained by ICE through the hotline. That does not represent everyone in San Francisco who's been detained by ICE, but those are the individuals who called our hotline either the day of the arrest or immediately following the arrest. And we sent attorneys to meet with them and provide immediate legal consultations and advice. And for those who called us after they were detained, we coordinated a legal consultation with them from their detention center, which means we were able to locate everyone that ICE detained. Unfortunately, if individuals do not call the rapid response hotline, ICE will not allow attorneys to meet with them. We can't just go to the detention facility or processing center and say, I'm a lawyer, I'm willing to speak to anyone who wants to speak to me. We rely on a community member calling the hotline and giving us, at the very least, the name of the individual detained before we're able to speak with them and follow up with their family. We've also started since July giving what we call urgent consultations to people who have an upcoming ICE check-in or appointment at court and they're afraid to go and have legal questions about the risks of detention. And we've provided about 40 of those consultations since we started providing them in July. This is not part of our original scope of work that we have funded through the city. It's something that we started doing because of the need and the fear in the community. According to the Deportation Data Project at Berkeley, about 70% of the individuals being detained by ICE nationally have no criminal record, and over 90% have no conviction for a violent crime. So despite the narrative that the administration is putting forward, the majority of the people who are detained by ICE currently do not have any criminal history. And their only violation is some sort of accusation of an immigration violation. This includes people who entered the United States on a visa or had some type of lawful permission or status to be in the United States. We are now seeing them detained regularly. To give you an idea of how this has impacted our hotline, annually, we would average about 1,200 calls to the rapid response hotline. The majority of these calls were regarding a need for immigration resources, referrals to local organizations that could provide legal support. And during the first Trump administration, we maybe saw 1 to 2 arrests of a San Francisco resident reported to the hotline per month. In the last year of the Biden administration, we were only activated on 2 calls for the entire year of San Francisco residents needing legal support. There are additionally individuals who are represented and have private counsel, so those would not be called into the hotline, but we did not have a huge need for attorney responders during the last 4 years. What we've seen since January is usually 1 to 2 activations of an attorney week, meaning we have confirmation from the hotline caller that a San Francisco resident was detained by ICE and is either here physically being processed or has been moved to a detention center, and we've responded to all of those calls. Compared to the 1,200 calls per year that we would get prior to this administration, we've already received 2,000 calls from July through September of 2025. And last week alone, with all of the news reports of ICE enforcement increasing in San Francisco and San Francisco being targeted, the hotline took in over 650 calls from community. None of those calls were to confirm an arrest that day. We've got probably about 4 or 5 calls for people who were detained within the week that we're now following up on. But the majority of those calls were people asking questions about whether or not ICE was in the community, reporting, and a lot of them are false reports of ICE being on Muni, ICE targeting the schools, people asking for information if ICE is at local businesses, targeting street vendors, and debunking some of those reports that we see on social media by verifying whether or not ICE is actually present in the community. So that's where we are on the hotline side. So I want to talk about what we're seeing in San Francisco compared to nationally. So nationally, in major cities, New York, Chicago, Los Angeles, and Portland, it's true that we have seen these large raids where ICE or CBP are going out into the community and indiscriminately arresting people. And with the Supreme Court decision that came out this summer, allowing them to racially profile individuals based on the language they speak and where they're presumed to work, there's a lot of nervousness in the community that nobody is safe regardless of their immigration status, and a lot of people are afraid to leave their homes. We've seen a raid type scenario in Sacramento targeting a Home Depot. We saw some in the Central Valley in January before the new administration came in. And we've seen some violent interactions between ICE and community members in other counties in the Bay Area where they have dragged people out of their cars, broken their windows, forced themselves into homes. But what we're seeing in the community in San Francisco is ICE is going to people's homes or places of work and waiting outside. And when they leave, they generally have a targeted individual that they're looking for. They have their name, they have their photo, and they have their version of a warrant. It's not a warrant to enter anyone's home, but it basically identifies the individual that they're looking for, and then they arrest that individual. That is what we saw mainly in January and February in terms of community arrests. And that was the case until around August of this year. We saw our first large-scale arrests, for us, what we consider large-scale, where they arrested over 12 individuals in one home in the Soma neighborhood. They did this in a cooperation with what we believe is a DEA investigation. We know that at least 10 people were taken from the home, and they were all taken to ICE processing. They weren't charged with anything criminally. So we call these collateral arrests, where ICE was using the DEA to enter someone's home. We still haven't been able to verify if they have had a warrant in this instance, because the community members living there were reluctant to talk to us and share a lot of information. So we can't confirm whether or not there were any DEA-related criminal arrests, but of the individuals who were detained, 4 families called us and we responded and met with them, and none of those individuals had any criminal history. They were just here as immigrants without any lawful status in the United States. So that is the largest arrest that we've seen take place for one group of people one day in San Francisco, including in the first Trump administration. We never saw large-scale raids out in the community. And this was you know, a huge number for us to see 12 people taken from their homes like this. And we do have concerns that there's going to be more cooperation between ICE and other federal agencies, such as the IRS or the Bureau on Alcohol and Tobacco or ATF, because in San Francisco, we have not seen ICE officers or agents alone breaking into people's homes if they refuse to answer the door or let them in. What we see is they partner with another federal agency with some type of power to enter the building or the premises and enter with ICE so that ICE can make collateral arrests of anyone else in the location. And the incident in Soma in August is the first incident we have of that here in San Francisco that we've documented, but something similar happened in Alameda County about a month later, and then previously in San Mateo County. So it does seem to be a strategy they're employing throughout the Bay Area. So the other place that we're seeing them pick up individuals in San Francisco is the San Francisco Immigration Court. This court serves a huge swath of Northern California, mostly the western counties all the way up to the Oregon border, down to Salinas and Monterey. Counties in the East Bay are served by a different court in Concord. But prior to May of this year, in my 20 years practicing as an immigration attorney, I had never seen ICE enforcement at an immigration court. These individuals are in proceedings, and they have a legal right to be in the United States while they're applying for asylum, and most judges want individuals attending their hearings. So we saw for the first time in May ICE officers at the immigration court in San Francisco, and they've arrested, we've confirmed 87 arrests of individuals who were attending their immigration hearings from May until October 3rd. The last arrest we saw at immigration court was on October 3rd. And then we are also seeing a huge increase of arrests at USCIS and ICE check-ins at the 630 Sanson Street location in San Francisco. So they are probably arresting between 10 to 15 people every day from all over the Bay Area, not just San Francisco. And that is where we see the majority of the calls coming in from the hotline. And that's generally how they're picking up individuals here. They're sending them notices and letters saying you need to come to our office for an appointment. They won't tell them what the appointment is for. When they come in, they are detained and separated from their family. And if they don't know to contact the hotline, then we aren't able to respond and meet with them and give them information. And then this weekend in Stockton, we saw 25 individuals arrested at their ICE check-ins, which is a huge number for attorneys and community to respond to. And as of this morning, ICE in Stockton closed their offices and put up a sign saying they have to come here to San Francisco for their appointments going forward, which is likely because the Sampson building is a federal office building and it's easier for them to detain people and avoid community and protesters when they're bringing people inside that building. So we have been successful in some of our strategies to fight back. Our biggest tool right now is the ability to file habeas corpus petitions for people who are unlawfully detained by ICE. For the 87 court arrests, we got 45 of those individuals released from custody on a habeas petition because we coordinated attorneys from our Attorney of the Day program, Rapid Response, to come and meet with us and get those people out, many of them the same day that they were arrested before they could be moved from San Francisco. We started a court observation program with over 200 volunteers from community to sit in the courtrooms and take notes and make sure that none of our community members are kidnapped at their hearings. We've developed accompaniment programs working with Faith in Action and Bay Resistance to allow people to have a volunteer go to court or their appointment with them. So if they are detained by ICE, our rapid response networks can be notified immediately. We have a volunteer coordinator now and an ability for anyone who's interested in supporting our work from any of our partners to fill out a volunteer request form so we can vet them and find an opportunity for them to support our work. We are offering more legal clinics in partnership with OSEA and SF Island. One of the main ones is we are trying to regularly allow people to ask that their hearings be virtual before the immigration court so they don't have to attend in person and risk detention. We've gotten successful outreach campaigns out so people know to call the hotline. We're also coordinating with other Bay Area rapid response networks, so not all of this work falls on San Francisco and our nonprofits just because the processing centers are here. We've got...
Thank you. If you could please wrap up,
Sorry.
it would be great.
Yeah, these are my last points. We are also sharing information with other cities impacted by ICE enforcement to understand what strategies are working there. And finally, we are hoping that the Board of Supervisors will push forward additional funding for the work that we do so that we can expand our capacity and serve more San Francisco residents. Thank you.
Thanks so much for your presentation. We ask that no applause, please. Next presenter, Deputy City Attorney Karun Tilak. Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Deputy City Attorney Karun Tilak. Thank you for this opportunity to present to you all this evening on behalf of the City Attorney's Office. I'll be providing a brief high-level overview of the city's sanctuary policies, and then I'll turn to our work preparing for potential surges in immigration enforcement. Just as a reminder, while I'm happy to provide a high-level overview, there's some information I can't share in this public forum because it's a public forum, including confidential advice we've shared with client departments and anything impacting our litigation strategy. We appreciate your understanding. We are available to answer questions outside of this space, and we would ask that you coordinate with Director Rivas if you have any questions that I can't answer in this setting. So to table set about San Francisco's sanctuary ordinances. Our sanctuary ordinance basically reaffirms that we as a city will not use our own resources to assist with civil immigration enforcement. What that means at a basic level is that the city and its departments will not participate in federal immigration enforcement subject to a few limited exceptions. San Francisco police, for example, do not assist in immigration raids. And more generally, the city provides city services without regard to immigration status and without collecting information about residents' immigration status. And that's because we know as a city, we are safer and stronger when people can feel free coming to access city services, whether that's law enforcement or the hospital system or the myriad other social safety net services that the city provides without fear that they'll be asked and referred to immigration enforcement. Our sanctuary laws have been litigated during the first Trump administration, and we have received a court order, including from the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeal, finding that San Francisco's sanctuary laws and California state sanctuary statute are both constitutional and lawful, notwithstanding anything that this administration and the Attorney General have said publicly. But it's also important to understand what the sanctuary ordinance does not do to avoid public confusion. The city cannot control the actions of federal immigration officials, and we can't prevent them from engaging in lawful immigration enforcement in San Francisco. So what that means is we can't prevent ICE from accessing public areas of city property, and we can't stop them from engaging in enforcement in the city more generally. Now, as we are all aware, last week there were reports of a surge of immigration enforcement here in the Bay Area, including in San Francisco. While thankfully that ultimately did not come to pass, I want to highlight some of the efforts the city has been taking to prepare for more widespread immigration enforcement, efforts that long predated last week and really have been ongoing since the election. So earlier in the year, the city attorney's office put out public guidance to city employees on how they should interact with ICE agents pursuant to the requirements of our sanctuary ordinance and other applicable laws. That guidance was accompanied by a one-page quick reference guide, making it easy for employees in the moment to have a reference when interacting with ICE officials. It also included examples of what a judicial warrant or an administrative warrant or a subpoena would look like, to make it easy, or as easy as possible, for employees, frontline employees working directly with the public and encountering ICE to be able to respond in a manner consistent with our sanctuary ordinance. Last week, that guidance was pushed back out to all departments, so it continues to be easily accessible to all employees. Last week, the mayor also issued an executive directive in response to the news about the ICE surge. The directive requires that departments prepare and train staff on the city's sanctuary laws and how to interact with ICE agents, consistent with the guidance put out by our office. The directive also enhances coordination between city departments with the community and with regional partners to ensure coordinated response to increased ICE enforcement should that come to pass. Our office has and continues to advise city departments on the lawful actions they can take to continue to serve communities, including the most vulnerable residents of our city, in the face of these enhanced immigration enforcement threats. And our office continues to assess and file litigation where appropriate to protect the city and push back against the Trump administration's actions. To date, our office has filed 10 lawsuits challenging various Trump administration policies, including several that challenge the Trump administration's anti-immigrant agenda. For example, we have challenged the executive order threatening to revoke birthright citizenship. We have challenged the Trump administration's continued threats to defund and prosecute sanctuary jurisdictions. And we have filed a number of lawsuits challenging the Trump administration's efforts to tie critical federal funding for emergency response, for homelessness services, and for various streams of funding to our jurisdiction agreeing to cooperate with ICE or agreeing to abandon DEI programs. To date, our office has been successful almost across the board in getting injunctions as to most of those Trump administration policies. Those cases are now working their way through the courts. With that, I will conclude my remarks. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for being brief. Okay, so next we have Police Department, Police Chief Paul Abe, Commander Jack Hart, Director Pat Gorman, and Officer Lorena Jimenez. Please, thank you. You have 5 to 7 minutes for the
Great.
presentation.
Okay. Good evening, Commissioners, Director Rivas, members of the general public. I am the Interim Police Chief, Paul Yep. Let me start by saying the San Francisco Police Department is committed to building trust with our immigrant communities. Our number one responsibility is public safety. I'll repeat that. Our number one responsibility is public safety. We have sanctuary city ordinances and state law that prohibits the San Francisco Police Department from participating in civil immigration enforcement. We recently put a department notice, we call it DN 25-089, that reaffirms our city laws and the department policy. It outlines our response to incidents involving federal civil immigration enforcement. Commander Jack Hart will discuss some of the details of that department notice. We cannot legally interfere with the enforcement of federal law. We regularly train for emergency scenarios, including facilitating First Amendment activity, rescue scenarios, rendering aid scenarios, with our other city department leaders. I will say this, everyone is free and is encouraged to exercise their constitutional rights. Crime and property destruction will never be tolerated. I repeat again, our number one responsibility is public safety. That's our job. I'll conclude my remarks by saying this. I encourage our immigrant communities, especially in the Mission, Chinatown, wherever in San Francisco, where many of our families live and work, to report all crimes to the police department. We do not ever ask about immigration status. Now I'm going to turn the microphone over to Commander Jackal. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Chief. Good evening, Commissioners. Good evening, Director. Just want to thank you for your time. And thank you, Chief. I just wanted to say, I was asked recently, what's the value proposition that a San Francisco police officer brings to the table? And we, all of the members of our department, have a high degree of compassion, courage, and consideration when dealing across all of our neighborhoods. We could probably get jobs anywhere, but we choose to be here because those are the values that we uphold and that we want to represent while sworn to uphold and to protect and to serve. But one of the also things that we need to bring is a high degree of wisdom, because there are a lot of department policies and procedures and laws that we are all required to know at an instant and be able to manifest at 3 in the morning or 3 in the afternoon with no margin for error, and ensuring that we bring the high degree of wisdom and practical wisdom and justice to each situation as it demands. I was going through our department policies and procedures. In my role, I have not only been an academy instructor for the last 80 police academy classes, but also an attorney, but also working with a lot of policy and with a lot of discipline. And I just came across a copy of our Enforcement of Immigration Laws Department General Order from December 13th, 1995. And when we have so many hundreds of policies and procedures that have so many shalls and shoulds, it's wonderful in our department that the requirements for under the sanctuary city and the relevant ordinances under both local and state law are clear, acculturated, and are a part of what we have done in this department for well over 30 years. And if we miss it, if we miss our expectations, we want to hear about that as well. Even longer than the sanctuary city ordinance has been in effect is also the Department of Police accountability. And we know as police leaders and also civilian oversight that if we miss the mark on these policies and procedures, we also want to know about it so we can make those corrections and make sure that we're following the letter and the spirit of the sanctuary ordinance and state law. With regards to the department notices, Chief Yep, even though it's so clear in our hearts and our minds of our officers, Chief Yep did not want to wait around and actually issued a department notice that beat Governor Newsom passing statewide legislation affecting law enforcement in this realm. And one of our department notices actually beat the governor. That's how the San Francisco Police Department has always been when it came to policy. We lead the way, and we're continuing to lead here. Copies of this new policy of 25089 are up here and also are translated in many other languages, but wanted to, again, just remind our officers and also give notice to the public as well that we don't provide assistance with federal civil immigration law, that we are there to safeguard life and property, that if we do respond to a call for service, that our body-worn cameras are on so that we can fully document the incident for any sort of review, either internally or with our partner agencies or our oversight to make sure that everyone on scene got it correct and legal. And also clarification to our officers that when feasible to be able to verify the credentials of folks that are on scene, and to also have formal supervisors in the police department to go to provide guidance and support. So I want to thank Chief Yep for implementing these clarification notices and procedures to augment what has been very sound in our policies and procedures. Yo soy bilingüe también, and so Officer Lorena Jimenez, who works with OSEA, who has done terrific work in ensuring that our bilingual testing for interpreters and translators is in effect. And I hope that she could just speak briefly to tell you about all the work we're doing so that if you do call us, that we're not only culturally and policy and legally informed, but that we also can speak the right language as well. Thanks, Lorena.
Good evening, Chair Souza and members of the Immigrant Affairs Commission. So I am the department's language access liaison, and I have been in this role for about 6 months. And I work closely with OSEA, and they help with translations of documents. They actually helped us make sure that the translation of Department Notice 25-089 and 25-092, which is currently being looked at, to make sure it's correct before we push it out. And they also just help with any issues we have regarding language access, because I'm still learning my role and I go to them with all my questions and very helpful. But we are also working with Language Line to get more sworn members certified in other languages besides the 5 that are available through our Department Human Resources Department. And so I have just actually signed up my first couple of officers to do Italian. And so it's new to me, but we're seeing how that goes. But the languages that are available, sorry, give me 1 second, I have so much paperwork up here, are going to be Haitian, Arabic, Korean, Mandarin, Polish, Russian, Vietnamese, which I know is going to be one of the threshold languages in 2026. And that was one that we were really working hard to get. Hindi, Turkish, Italian, and Romanian. And as of now, for the fiscal year of 2024 to 2025, we have a total of 573 SFPD members that are certified in all kinds of languages. And out of those 573, 468 of those are sworn members on the street, on patrol, interacting with people. And so with that, we have implemented quarterly testing. Before it wasn't done quarterly, but with everything going on, we are doing quarterly. We just had testing in August. We just had testing this month, and we're going to do more testing in December. And
Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you so much for your presentation. Next, I will call Sheriff Paul Miyamoto. Thank you for being here.
Good evening, Madam Chair. Commissioners, Director Rivas, thank you for the opportunity. Although I have to follow Commander Hart, I'll do my best to be as informative as we can. A lot of what the police department does and has done is similar to what we do as a law enforcement agency, but I want to specifically highlight some things about our role in the public, in the community, and it's not to engage in civil immigration enforcement at all. San Francisco is a sanctuary city, and no one is more attuned to that than I. The city attorney mentioned earlier, Sanctuary City Ordinance 12H and I. There's an exemption buried in that, very specific to individuals that we have incarcerated, individuals with criminal records, as to whether or not we can be responsive to requests from ICE on requests for detainers, which are part of their civil immigration enforcement. And those are very specific to our department, specific to me as the sheriff. There are only very limited circumstances in which we would notify ICE once somebody's local charges are finished on one of those detainer requests. And I want to make sure that we're clear on that. It involves situations where an individual is being held to answer. And I see the public defender behind me, Manol Raju, who can attest to the process that I'm speaking of. If an individual is held to answer on specific types of charges and has a criminal history of some sort of violent felony within 7 years, a serious felony within 5, or 3 separate incidents where they are convicted of 3 separate charges, felonies, only then can an individual be even considered for notification to ICE of the completion of their criminal matters. And that's in a balance of both their history, as I've mentioned, as well as attempts at mitigating issues while incarcerated, while in our custody and care and justice involved, or also instances where they have shown themselves to be members of the community in a specific way. Out of the over 4,000 requests that I've received while in my tenure as the sheriff, we've notified ICE twice. One time I don't believe that they even realized that San Francisco had notified them. So the individual was actually released from our custody. And the second instance involved an individual who also had charges in another county. So of all the instances where we've had requests from ICE to detain people for civil immigration enforcement, we've only notified them twice, and both times that individual was not turned over to ICE. I got very specific there. I want to go into some general things now as relates to our role in San Francisco. And again, we don't engage in civil enforcement, civil immigration enforcement. We're very in tune with recent events that have occurred. We issued a bulletin in July subsequent to what has occurred in Southern California, reemphasizing what our role is to our membership, making sure that they were very clear on any situation involving any calls for service regarding ICE enforcement activities when we have to respond, or even civil demonstrations or protests involving ICE operations. There have been concerns, and we are coordinating, as mentioned by the police department, with not just the police department, but other city departments and leadership. We have ongoing meetings right now in response to recent events, and ongoing meetings that will continue to make sure that we are prepared to deal with this. Our staff are trained on making sure that they are not assisting ICE enforcement activities, but when a situation occurs that becomes unsafe or violent acts are being committed, they have been instructed to step in to keep the public safe and render aid, as Chief Yep said, in the event that individuals are injured by ICE or federal authorities that are engaged in enforcement activities. I do want to also mention before closing that our outreach with assistance from OSEA and making sure that our staff are fully informed has been a city effort, and we appreciate that, along with the city attorney's office and the Department of Human Resources, who have all helped us to collaborate on making sure our staff and our members are informed. We try to stay engaged with the public. We have a number of informative videos that we post on both our social media and website in different languages to make sure that our communications are clear, to make sure that people are aware that we are not out there engaged in enforcement activities. Recent incidents involving our staff where members have contacted Rapid Response Network or other individuals with concerns about whether or not we're engaged in immigration enforcement activities, have led us to consider putting magnetic identification on our unmarked vehicles so that individuals know that we're not federal authorities, that is clearly defined as a San Francisco entity, and our continuing efforts to make sure people are aware involve the use of our 83 individuals who are Spanish speaking in the department, as well as the fact that in 2023, we instituted a program where our nameplates actually identify the language that can be spoken other than English by our members, so that people will feel more comfortable in approaching us and speaking their native language. So thank you for the opportunity to share all this information with you. And again, thank you.
Thank you. And before I call the next speaker, I would like to ask for the presenters to wait so we can allow commissioners to ask questions. Thank you. Appreciate your time. Now, I would like to invite the Public Defender's Office to speak, Assistant Chief Attorney Angela Chan, and San Francisco Public Defender Manu Raju, please. Okay.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Commissioners. It's really an honor to be able to present today to introduce my colleagues. We have Angela Chan here, who, in addition to leading units that represent thousands of people every year, is also in charge of our policy work and is one of the architects of our sanctuary laws that protect all of us. And also Jennifer Friedman, who leads our immigration unit, who's doing the day in, day out work of zealously defending immigrants and protecting all of our rights.
Thank you, Mano. Thank you to everyone here, and thank you to the commissioners. I'm going to talk a little bit about what we do in the office. And I pick up a lot on what Millie was talking about in terms of what we're seeing in San Francisco currently in terms of immigration enforcement. Thank you. So at the Public Defender's Office, as you know, we do have an immigration defense unit where we represent San Franciscans at the intersection of the criminal, legal, and immigration systems, because we know that those are the communities who are at higher risk of detention and deportation. So that work includes representing San Francisco residents facing deportation, especially those who are detained. We provide advisals to all non-citizens who are facing accusations of criminal activity and represented by our office. We file applications for legal status for our youth clients. Our Clean Slate unit works very, very hard to help non-citizens vacate convictions that may have immigration consequences that they were not advised of at the time. And we are out in the community also providing Know Your Rights trainings through the community. I'm going to pick up where Millie left off talking about what we're seeing here in the community. She did talk about how one of the things that we've seen is a big increase in detentions in San Francisco of our non-citizens. And the Immigration Defense Unit at the Public Defender's Office has been working closely with all of the organizations in SFILDC. And what we're seeing with the increased detention is obviously what happens afterwards is also of increasing concern. So for example, when folks are detained, when they go to court in San Francisco or they go to an ICE check-in and they're detained, the first thing that happens is the detention takes place right there at 630 Sansom. And we're seeing a previously unprecedented use of that facility at 630 Sansom being used for overnight detention, now up to 72 hours, where previously there was a limit of up to 12 hours for detention there. And that raises a lot of concerns because the holding cells in that building are meant only for brief detentions, not for overnight stays. And we're now seeing sometimes multiple night stays there during processing while ICE is waiting to transfer people to longer term detention. And there's a lot of concerns about conditions there. And there is a lawsuit filed by ACLU, but folks are having to sleep on cold metal benches or on the floor without real bedding. The lights are on 24 hours a day. There's no privacy. There's insufficient hygiene materials provided. There's no medical screening taking place. And we have seen instances even of someone having a medical crisis there at 630 Sansom. And they're really not being prepared to process that. So eventually then, when someone is detained and processed through 630 Sansom, they'll be transferred to longer term detention in one of the immigration detention centers. And here in San Francisco, where most of our residents are transferred is to the three detention centers, the three closest detention centers, which are Mesa Verde, which is in Bakersfield, Golden State Annex, which is in McFarland, and the newly opened California City Detention Center in California City. And those are all detention centers that are independently run by for-profit corporations. And we see a lot of concerns about detention conditions there, right? Especially when we're talking about California City, which was a previously shut down federal prison that was reopened in September of 2025 in violation of a lot of state laws and permitting. And it was wildly unprepared for the influx of our clients that were transferred there earlier this year. It's currently California's largest detention center with over 2,500 beds, and conditions there have been reported as particularly terrible, even as compared to the other private detention centers in California. A lot of concerns there about, as in the other detentions, inadequate medical care, irregular access to medication, unsatisfactory hygiene conditions and supplies, insufficient time in outdoor space, non-functional plumbing resulting in unsanitary bathroom conditions, contaminated drinking water, lack of access to legal materials, rehabilitation programs, and then just really frequent harsh treatment by guards and prison-like treatment. So that's, when we're talking about increased detention, I really wanted to paint the picture of what that means, right? And so once someone is detained by immigration, in a lot of cases, they're going to end up detained through the rest of their immigration process, right? Some other things that we've seen under this administration are severe limitations on access to release on bond, some reinterpretations of legal standards that previously allowed undocumented folks to be released on bond that there's no longer being permitted. We're seeing mass firings of respondent-friendly immigration judges. The case law has become increasingly difficult to succeed in asylum applications. We're seeing deportations to third countries, and all of those additional challenges are contributing to the fact that we're seeing folks being detained here in San Francisco and then held during all of that time. So it really is a very difficult situation. How we are fighting back is we're working very closely with the San Francisco Bar Association, SFI-LDC, and all of the other amazing nonprofit legal providers here in San Francisco, working with the Attorney of the Day programs to help with some of those rapid response programs that Millie was talking about, and those some of those habeas. We are working to hire additional attorneys to increase our capacity to provide full legal representation to more San Francisco residents, more Know Your Rights, and ensuring compliance with sanctuary laws. I do want to talk very quickly I want to get out some important Know Your Rights information for community members, right? So when we do see ICE arrests at immigration court and at check-ins, our top line messaging to our community members is, first of all, you want to consult with an attorney from one of the San Francisco nonprofits or from our office before going in to court or to a check-in whenever possible. You can ask for support for court accompaniment programs like Faith in Action and Bay Resistance. Folks can be prepared by filling out emergency preparedness plan and holding on to ILRC red cards. If ICE comes to your home, you do have the option of saying, I do not consent to a search. You should not open your door unless they have a warrant signed by a judge, which is very rare, not the administration warrants, and those should be slipped under the door. ICE officers do come disguised as police and sometimes lie and say that they are probation officers or police officers. Folks should remember they have the right to remain silent and call their lawyer. If you or a loved person is detained by ICE, the number one thing to do is call the San Francisco Rapid Response Network within 24 hours of that detention. It is a 24-hour free hotline, and that'll activate that process that Millie was talking about. You can also reach out to us in the Public Defender's Office, and we will assess whether or not that is a case we have that we can take on. Other top line messaging to our community is, if you are detained by ICE, it is important. There's a lot of different procedural postures that people find themselves in, but it's important to say, one, I'm afraid to be deported. I request a fear interview. It's really important that folks know that in a lot of cases, they have to affirmatively say that in order to get an interview with an immigration officer, an asylum officer. If you're afraid to be removed to a third country, it's important to manifest that fear as well and say, I'm afraid to be removed, or I want to apply to asylum from that third country. Someone has been in the United States for more than 2 years. It's important to put that information out there. Other than that information, being as assertive but vague as possible with regard to country of origin, folks should exercise their right to remain silent and not sign any documents without consulting a lawyer first. Really, really briefly, I'm going to pass it on to Angela to talk about sanctuary, but it's important to understand that folks with immigration attorneys are 5 times more likely to win their immigration cases. And sometimes I meet people who want to give up as soon as they're detained. They haven't had a chance to talk to a lawyer, and being detained is terrifying and upsetting. And a lot of times people just don't even want to talk about it. They're like, just get me, I'm just going to go. I give up. And the vast majority of people deported waive claims for relief.
Thank you.
They don't
If
have
you could
access to a
please
lawyer.
conclude, and then I'll give, Angela, I'll give you 2 minutes, if that's okay, if you could be brief. I just want to make sure to allow our commissioners to ask questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you for holding this important hearing. Thanks to my colleague Jennifer for the work you're doing leading our immigration unit in these unprecedented times. So I did draft and help to pass our local and state sanctuary laws. We've had to update them, we meaning the local Immigrant Rights Coalition, Free SF, which is a collaboration between different immigrant rights groups throughout San Francisco. The ICE out of California statewide coalition has also updated our state sanctuary laws several times. I won't go into any detail over them, but just wanted to give you that sense of how we've had to do this to keep up with ICE's evolving tactics. One thing to note, one of ICE's main tactics is to try to get local law enforcement, police, sheriffs, probation to act as force multipliers so that they can arrest more people and engage in mass deportations. It's so important that San Francisco has a sanctuary ordinance to prevent that from happening. Noting that our San Francisco sanctuary ordinance there's a long list of things they prohibit. One of them is asking for immigration status, as SFPD Chief Yep mentioned. Also, they prohibit assisting with an immigration warrant. We've talked about that today, but it's important to note because sometimes people get this mixed up with a real warrant signed by a judge. And most importantly, when it comes to law enforcement, it prohibits law enforcement from holding people for extra time for ICE if they're otherwise eligible to be released from the criminal process. Just noting that. There's often talk in the press about good versus bad immigrants, people with convictions, people without. It's important to note for our office, the San Francisco Public Defender's Office, when someone has earned release, their immigration status and where they were born should have nothing to do with whether or not they're actually released back to their home and back to their community. So something to note, that even though we're really proud of our sanctuary ordinance, I helped to pass it, there are exceptions in it. These exceptions are exceptions that set the floor, not the ceiling. San Francisco can choose to adopt a stronger policy that has no exceptions, a bright line rule. We do not work with ICE. We do not subject immigrants to double punishment. And our neighboring counties have now led the way. San Mateo, Santa Clara, Alameda all have stronger policies than San Francisco right now, where they do not work with ICE. I just looked at Alameda's policy, Alameda Sheriff's policy. They updated it, I believe, just beginning of October, and it's called the no contact policy. No exceptions, no contact policy.
Thank you so much. If you could please email that to us, that would be great.
Sure, glad to do that, and I'll wrap up. Something to note, move to our state sanctuary laws, that it prohibits joint task force. That's any time a local law enforcement agency works with any federal agency. I want to highlight that because there's been talk about Operation All Hands on Deck in the Tenderloin, DEA, FBI, U.S. Attorney's Office working with San Francisco. That's prohibited if the primary purpose is immigration enforcement. So we're monitoring that closely to see if those agencies are just go-betweens between San Francisco and ICE. Lastly, I'm just going to jump to 2 slides ahead here. Noting that with SFPD, I'm so glad they issued this directive, but there are pieces to it that we would like to encourage them to revise. There is a provision that allows assistance with traffic enforcement and maintaining a perimeter, noting that that feels unnecessary to us. The LAPD directive does not have that. And the Department General Order, that is the controlling policy 5.15, also does not have that leeway. So that just jumps us to our recommendations to fund immigration defense, as Millie has mentioned, to establish a fund for immigration filing fees since those have increased. Our office has had to scramble to find a way to pay for them. Ensure full compliance with our sanctuary laws and have stronger protections, and then investigate the inhumane conditions at 630 Sansom, as Jennifer has outlined. Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. Yeah, please, no applause. Next, I'll pass it on to Director Rivas. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So, good evening, everyone, and thank you for being here today for the special meeting of the San Francisco Immigrant Rights Commission. My name is Jorge Rivas. I'm the Director of the Office of Civic Engagement and Immigrant Affairs, also known as OCEA, and I'm speaking in that capacity at this moment, just for the record. Thank you, commissioners, community partners, and residents gathered tonight to focus on a topic that could not be more urgent and more important. We are meeting at a pivotal moment for the immigrant communities in San Francisco. Our immigrant communities are navigating deep uncertainty created by the changing and challenging federal immigration policies. The Immigrant Rights Commission has a critical role to play. The Commission provides a public forum for hearing directly from the community, uplifting voices and experiences that too often go unheard, and advising city leaders on policies that ensure San Francisco remains a city of refuge, inclusion, and opportunity for all of us. At OSEA, the Office of Civic Engagement and Immigrant Affairs, our work is deeply connected to your mission. We partner with the Commission and the city departments to make sure immigrant communities have access to information, resources, and services regardless of status. Whether it's language access, legal services, or safety initiatives, OSEA's role is to help coordinate across government and community so that San Francisco's commitments to immigrants are not just symbolic, but are tangible. With that, I'd like to pass the mic over to OSEA's Deputy Director, Rich Whipple, who is presenting on behalf of our office on resources available to individuals and families impacted by federal enforcement actions locally. Thank you, Rich.
Thanks, Director. Good evening, Commissioners. Happy to be with you this evening. I just wanted to start by thanking you for holding this hearing, and to all of our presenters and members of the community and city leaders. I think there's a lot of weary, tired faces in the room. I know there's many meetings, many conversations, and the fact that folks are showing up here tonight, I think really speaks to the energy and dedication in the room. So I have been asked to just summarize some of the resources. Most of these are community-based resources, not necessarily those provided by the city, that to spare kind of time and help us be efficient. So kind of just breaking this down between phases. So we've heard a lot already from our other colleagues, so I'll be brief. But I'm going to talk briefly first about preparing for any immigration enforcement emergencies. And wanted to flag that one obvious thing to do is really just to stay informed and in the know. We heard from Millie, we heard from Jennifer and Angela, important details about preparedness. We also have a website, our Immigrant Forum. We have our listserv that is part of the Immigrant Forum, and we have bi-weekly webinars as well. So it's really critical that service providers, whether they're immigrant serving or not, as well as community members, stay informed about what is happening and about their rights, particularly, as was mentioned before, around preparedness plans. The Immigrant Legal Resource Center has a great family preparedness plan that thinks through things like childcare, document collection, and other important details. Also wanted to take a moment to highlight this particular resource for preparing for financial emergencies. This was prepared by the Office of Financial Empowerment in partnership with OSEA, and really thinks through the important pieces around accessing your money, protecting assets, and other pieces that sometimes are not thought about until one finds themselves in an emergency. So again, I referenced already the Immigrant Forum. Previously, there was a slide about our Immigrant Support Hub, which is an online immigration help tool. That is a tool to help people find low-cost, community-trusted immigration legal services. Obviously, there's extremely high demand, but we are fortunate to be in a city with really robust community networks. Also wanted to reiterate some of the community-based workshops that our office helps to support, whether it's citizenship workshops, which are held in partnership with the Pathways to Citizenship Initiative, or our work permit or EAD clinics that are held in partnership with SF Island and SFILDC, and other clinics that were mentioned by previous presenters. Here's more details about the Immigrant Hub website. It's immigrants.sf.gov. Again, a place to be able to find in-language, community-based, trusted immigration legal service providers. Also flagging the importance of fee assistance. Many of you know that immigration filing fees have increased. It's now more difficult to pay those fees because of online payment requirements. So this is an area of increased need. Fortunately, there's some resource right now, be it inadequate, but Mission Asset Fund is doing wonderful work to support immigration fees through zero interest loans, as well as full scholarships for hardship cases. and are currently in the process of reworking their systems to catch up with this new online payment requirement. So now I'm not going to talk too much about what to do in the case of immigration enforcement because we heard a very detailed overview by our colleagues in the Public Defender's Office. But suffice it to say and to reiterate the rapid response hotline, the phone number everyone should have in their phones, in their minds, and should be familiar with how to access that. And just a reminder on this slide of the various reasons you can call the hotline. Of course, the primary really around dispatching legal help for somebody in the instance of ICE activity, but also the expanded services around requesting accompaniment and the urgent legal consultations that Millie mentioned. I'm speed talking, I'm going to slow it down just for you, Arturo. I got you. Lastly, afterwards, there are resources that have been recently announced. I'm sure some of you are aware of. San Francisco Foundation in partnership with mayors and elected officials around the Bay Area recently announced the Stand Together Bay Area Fund. This is a fund for people impacted by immigration enforcement, meant to support them and their family members, whether it's paying for rent or food or other forms of emergency aid. This is meant to be at its core financial assistance for those families. And it is Bay Area wide. This is an active fundraising effort from these different cities in the region, as well as private philanthropy, and different organizations throughout the Bay will be helping to disseminate those funds. One of those organizations is Mission Asset Fund. They have the ALMA fund in place and pre-existed before the Stand Together Bay Area Fund. The ALMA fund is available similarly to provide that type of direct cash assistance. There's many more things to share, but I know the focus of today's conversation is to really allow you all to engage in conversation around the topic of the city's response to immigration enforcement. So I will stop there and thank you for the time.
Thank you. First, thank you to all the presenters. So now I'd like to allow commissioners to ask questions they may have pertaining to the presentation or any clarification regarding the applicability of information by presenters. Please refrain from statements to allow more time for questions. Any questions, commissioners? Commissioner Obregon.
If you want to, do you want to go first?
Commissioner.
Please go.
Okay. Thank you all presenters. That was really useful and helpful information. I have a question that may be for the city attorney or the public defender's office. Whoever feels more comfortable answering. This is in relations to maybe our sanctuary city ordinance and how we can strengthen it or maybe possibly accidentally be violating it. I know that when someone gets arrested, even for a misdemeanor or a nonviolent crime, they often get booked and fingerprinted, and that database is shared with Homeland Security. And I'm wondering, can this potentially be counted as assisting or providing logistical support to these federal agencies? Another question tied to that is that when someone is arrested, they ask if they don't ask for status, but they do ask if someone is foreign born. And so could that be potentially flagging the Department of Homeland Security as someone that could potentially have alternative status? And then as a second question, since I only have one chance to ask questions, is how do we formally ask for an investigation of the treatment of people at 630 Sansom? So 2 questions.
Great questions. So the Secure Communities Program, also known as SCOM, is a Department of Homeland Security program that was turned on in San Francisco without our permission, over our objection around 2011 or so, 2010, 2011. That is a fingerprint sharing program where any fingerprint taken at booking is automatically transmitted to Department of Homeland Security for a civil immigration background check. That's what results in the ICE detainer, also known as an ICE hold, that's sent back to the jail. And that is what I was pointing out, something that we don't need to respond to We largely don't respond, as Sheriff Miyamoto underscored. However, there are still exceptions under both the sanctuary ordinance and the Sheriff's Department policy. The sanctuary ordinance at the local level and the state level make clear that those exceptions are discretionary. It sets the floor, not the ceiling. So we could come into line with the other surrounding counties, decide to have a bright line rule of anytime we receive these requests, because they're purely requests, they're not warrants signed by a judge, that we could just decline them, not respond to them, as we do with the overwhelming vast majority of these requests. So that's what we have power over, is how we respond to the requests that are generated. Myself, as well as the Free SF Coalition, collaborated closely with then Sheriff Mike Hennessy to try to turn off the Secure Communities program. That's actually what resulted in us going to the state level to pass state law. So one of the first iterations of a state law called the Trust Act was about turning off the Secure Communities program. But it's a long story, but we were unsuccessful. But we are not deterred. That is something long-term that we still want to work on, is turning off that program, because it was turned on. It's not a law, and it's something that we objected to. In terms of the conditions at 630 Sansom, I think that is something that the Board of Supervisors, the mayor, could investigate. This is a building in the middle of downtown San Francisco. There are zoning laws, parking laws, health and safety conditions that should apply equally to this building. So that is something that I would recommend, that our office would recommend.
Thank you. Commissioner Paz?
Thank you.
If I may just provide a brief clarification
Yeah.
as to the sanctuary ordinance. The sanctuary ordinance as currently drafted does not prohibit law enforcement from cooperating with federal authorities on criminal enforcement matters. So I can't speak to the specifics of the secured communities, and I know the sheriff is here. But as a general matter, if someone is booked into custody and their fingerprints are taken for criminal enforcement purposes, for FBI and other purposes, that would not be covered by our current sanctuary ordinance.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Paz.
Thank you to the chair. Thank you. And thank you all for being here. Thank you to our presenters. I guess my first question is sort of directed at our Police Department Commander Hart. As you know, California passed SB 627 in response, which requires both federal and local law enforcement not to wear masks. It prohibits from mask wearing when conducting business, with the exception of a medical emergency, some tactical or undercover work, and so forth. But it's a pretty straightforward law. You just can't wear masks. Does SFPD have a plan on how they will enforce this? We know that that's one of the issues that's really created a lot of fear in our communities. We have heard reports of people being pulled from the streets by masked agents from the federal government right off the streets. It's creating terror and fear. Looks like a kidnapping in the middle of the street, and so like to see a response. What protocols can be put in place? Is it going to be enforced? Can you enforce it when ICE doesn't follow and breaks that law?
Thanks, Commissioner. Yeah, Department Notice 25-092 was that policy that Chief Yep put out in advance of Governor Newsom signing that very law into action, prohibiting that San Francisco police officers do not wear those masks under very limited circumstances. And with those limited exceptions, if an SFPD is wearing that, then there's going to be a whole bunch of identification saying we're San Francisco police, this is not immigration related, and so on. So we were able to bring copies of that policy as well. That's here if you'd like to review it. And that really is a key distinguishing factor between the work that San Francisco PD does and being able to determine if the feds are involved, because we are not going to be wearing masks. Even when officers wear plain clothes, I used to work plain clothes 100 years ago, and it would just be a little car driving around doing things. Today, our plain clothes operations are very distinctive. We wear distinctive outfits anyway. It's a large group of people that has supervisors, superiors, managers that are present. And of course, we have the policy that every SFPD member shall immediately provide politely and clearly our identification to people. So if for some reason a person is asking an apparent federal or apparent law enforcement officer for that and they're not getting that, that should raise some flags that it's not the San Francisco Police Department. and then to reach out to confirm that and to deconflict it through the channels that everyone has been speaking about today.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I'm fully confident that our local law enforcement will really meet the conditions of that law. I just worry about what can the city do to ensure and enforce that our federal government, federal agents there are sort of not necessarily seem are going to be in tune. What can we do as a city to ensure that they meet what is which is now California law?
Well, we are, of course, in constant communication with the city attorney's office, asking those very questions and getting advice on where we stand and what can we do, what can't we do. We're obviously walking a thin line, operating under a confluence of a whole bunch of laws. However, if we receive a call like call for service where it's unknown what is occurring, we have that 25-089 in place to respond, to not interfere so that we're committing a federal felony, but of course, documenting, having supervisors on the scene and being able to establish that identity of that agent or person when it's feasible and reasonably safe to do so. So it's going to be a case specific and a case by case basis, but we're constantly talking about it and we're constantly training our frontline officers about it.
Thank you, Commander Hart.
Thanks, Commissioner.
If I may, Chair, I just have one more question.
Yes.
And this may be either for the city attorney, maybe related. We have heard of reports coming out of Chicago that federal agents have entered our schools and extricated students, removed students from the schools. And it seems like our schools and our places of worship are no longer sacred ground for these types of activities. Is there any way we can strengthen? I think there's been talk about strengthening our sanctuary policy or strengthening any other law that can support the school district and making sure that every student in our schools feels safe.
So I can't speak to specifics except to note that the school district is a separate entity, so the city's ordinances traditionally don't govern the school district, but I understand that concern for sure. My colleague Alicia Cabrera from the San Francisco City Attorney's Office is here as well.
Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. We have been coordinating with the School Districts Council. We really encourage through Jorge Rivas to invite the school district so they can specifically speak about their policies. They have lots of policies on the books that ensure the safety of our children. I just didn't want to make sure that you guys didn't leave with the impression that there's no coordination. There's a lot of information that the school district gives. And because of the jurisdictional challenges that we have, we would like them to be here to adequately speak on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Ng.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the public and thank you for the City Department for the presentation. I think my question is kind of following on Commissioner Paz, especially, with the recent heightened enforcement in our city, there might be potential unlawful detention and arrest happening in our city. And with all the passage of our state law, I think my question is wondering, how the city would be responding to those laws. For example, like SB 627, SB 805, No Vigilantes Act. I kind of wondering, if our police department could walk us through what type of training that, the department have been going through, and how do you interact with the federal agents in case if that's a potential violation of those state law. So just kind of wondering, what would be their guidance, what would be our city's approach to potential violation of the state law?
Thanks, Commissioner. Yeah, it's a work in progress. It's so situation based because it's even for us to make an arrest, it's based upon the totality of the circumstances for which we may not have all of the facts and circumstances that you could possibly come up with. And that's why we've have a clear sanctuary policy in our department policies. I also wanted to add, we have accompanying policies as well to make sure that San Francisco police are not used as proxies. I know that was mentioned a little bit earlier. We have a Department General Order 5.14 that talks about interagency operations because, we have a strong policy and procedures here. But it's clear through us and clear mandate from the Police Commission that if any outside agency, whether it's federal or even local from other counties, wants to do a joint operation with the San Francisco Police Department, they have to put it in writing, and then it needs to go through 5 levels of review before it gets approved. And that's lieutenant, captain, commander, deputy chief, and assistant chief. So while Proposition E allowed for some efficiencies and streamlining with the police department, that wasn't one of them, because we want to make sure that this is criminal involved, that there's not a immigration nexus to it, and that the San Francisco Police Department will only be responding to like emergencies related to this, and that's clear in our policy. There's another statement about, you know, whether we should just routinely be directing traffic. And that department notice does not change our department general order. It can't, pursuant to our different rules related to our police commission. And it was meant to be viewed in the process of emergency requests for help. Like if we need to, in an emergency, direct traffic, then we're able to do it, but not just a routine thing to help to facilitate the enforcement of civil immigration. So it's constantly ongoing. We're constantly having discussions with the city attorney's office. We know that in all of the circumstances that we respond to, that our body-worn cameras are going to be on. Our department body-worn camera policy was just revised. A new version goes into effect on November 10th, and it includes that everyone in the department is getting a body-worn camera, including the chief of police. And so we will all be wearing them. We were just trained this morning on activating and docking and syncing and doing all those things. I had never needed to wear one, but I'm going to now, because any of these circumstances could pop up in front of any police officer, and we want to make sure that we're ready and can be able to capture the entire story should our internal oversight want to see it, or any of our external enforcement partners want to see what happened in a given circumstance. Thanks, Commissioner.
Thank you. Commissioner Ruiz?
Mi pregunta es para la primera oradora o con quien trabaje con abogados. Estamos en tiempos difíciles y más difíciles cuando una persona ha sido víctima de fraude por unos abogados. Entonces, la comunidad LGBT está enfrentando en estos días a cartas de deportaciones debido a que ya no contaron con un abogado. Si alguien tiene un abogado que represente a una persona que está a punto de ser deportada, o cómo pueden hacer.
So my question is, we're going through very difficult times, and we've seen people that are facing fraud related to fraudulent attorneys. The LGBTQ community in particular, several people have received deportation letters. What can people do as far as obtaining an attorney, or what can they do when they're in that situation?
Yeah, this is a very difficult issue for the immigration community in this administration and prior administrations, but especially now because there's so much fear that people are desperate and they're paying people, unethical people, to provide services that they're not legally allowed to provide. So we, as the nonprofit community here in San Francisco, we encourage individuals before they pay an attorney or give a notario money that first they understand that a notario is not an attorney and cannot represent them in immigration, to contact one of the many legal service providers on the OSEA website, and we can help vet those individuals. It's a small community here in San Francisco. We know who the bad actors are in terms of attorneys, and we know how to spot these scam letters, these fraudulent letters, threatening people, scaring people. So a lot of times, most of our nonprofits, there's 23 of us on the ground through the 3 collaboratives. If you call one of us and schedule an appointment, you bring in whatever notice or letter you got. We will help you to figure out if it's real or not. If you had an attorney or a notario rip you off, we will help you file a complaint against them. If it's an attorney, we can go after them at the state bar where they're licensed. If it's a notario, we've worked very closely with the city attorney's office at the Bar Association to help bring up declarants, people willing to file official complaints against one particular notario, Leonard Lacayo, and have gotten an injunction against him. So there are things we can do. Unfortunately, a lot of community members, even when they have been victims, are afraid to report it, are afraid to cause problems because they believe it will impact their immigration case. So it's really about educating them and getting them connected to one of our organizations so we can explain to them. Because a lot of these bad actors are purposely threatening to call immigration, or this is going to harm your immigration case if you report us. So if we can connect them to our community partners, we can help them understand what happened, help them find an attorney that we've vetted or have trust in that is a member of the private bar, and then we can help them file complaints with local law enforcement if it's a scam, or help them file a complaint with the state bar if it's an attorney that's licensed.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Parra.
Yeah, thank you so much to everyone that showed up. I'm looking forward to public comment, hearing your voices. My first question is possibly to the public defender, but we heard today that we can't stop ICE from showing up in public spaces. So my first question is are there areas where ICE are not allowed to be at? And then the second question is around, ICE-free zones. And Millie Atkinson, maybe you can shed some light to this. But it's interesting idea, wanting to know how others have, in other states have implemented this. And yeah, what exactly would it entail? Thank you.
Great question. So that is correct that we can't prevent ICE from just being on the street. However, we could prevent ICE, and this goes to the ICE-free zones that Millie might want to add here too, which is prohibiting ICE from using city parking garages, city parking lots, and we could even limit where ICE parks, because right now in front of 630 Sansom on Jackson Street, one of the side streets, there's a general prohibition on parking with an exception for ICE vehicles that was granted years ago. That exception could be taken away. So there are things that the city can do to further lead the way on our sanctuary status. Also noting with regards to a workplace, a restaurant, a school, a hospital, ICE in some cases might be able to be in the lobby, the public area that's available to anyone, if they actually have business there, but they can't go to private areas of that building that's only available, that's restricted to the public. And so SB 54, California Values Act, our state sanctuary law, has a whole section in there that requires that a number of institutions adopt policies that limit assistance with ICE to the fullest extent under federal and state law. The Attorney General has, Rob Bonta, has drafted model policies available to K through 12 schools, courthouses, hospitals, libraries, spelling out in great detail what I've described about public versus private spaces and prohibiting ICE from entering, especially those private spaces.
Thank you. Next, Vice Chair Chaudhry.
First of all, I'd like to thank everyone who's come out today to speak and give public comment, just as Commissioner Farah mentioned, that your voice matters. And the second thing I'd like to do is thank all the presenters. Thank you so much for providing us with information in terms of how San Francisco has been responding to the federal immigration enforcement in the city. My question is to Millie. So in January, when we had our hearing, one of the things that you had mentioned was that thinking about the federal government, or let's say thinking about the federal government, in 2016, one of the things that you noticed was that there was an increase in the need for attorneys and the supply wasn't necessarily there. Is that something that you're going through right now as well? And if yes, what can we recommend or what can we do to make sure that we're building capacity, especially when it comes to providing attorneys or legal services to the residents of San Francisco?
Yes, that is still very much a problem. As I mentioned at the beginning, we collectively represent 1,000 San Francisco residents, and we have a wait list of 1,600. And because of the funding that we receive from the city, it hasn't significantly increased the dollar amount per attorney since 2015. So our ability to hire and retain trained immigration attorneys, particularly those who have language capacity, is extremely challenging for us. Having said that, we are pushing forward with the Board of Supervisors a budget supplemental tomorrow to help us increase capacity. We're working out the details, but we hope to bring on at least 5 to 10, hopefully more attorneys. That's not going to cover the need in the community, but it is a start. Every budget season, we put forward an ask to the city of how many attorneys we think we have capacity to handle. We would love to engage pro bono attorneys to take these cases. Every time we push for that, offer mentorship, training, education. Once they dip their toes into immigration law, they back off. So it's really about increasing our resources to retain the attorneys that we have and encourage new attorneys to enter this field. And we need to do that through the budget process if we want to focus on San Francisco. Like I said, there were 45 people who called the hotline who needed representation, who were detained that we could not provide. And that is a completely achievable number if we have 10 to 15 more attorneys working with us. And then the new thing that's changed since I spoke in January is a significant need for litigation, impact litigation at the federal level, as well as habeas corpus petitions at the Northern District Court. This is something our immigration attorneys are not trained in, and we are learning and ramping up and creating the law on it every day. And so we need attorneys with federal litigation experience willing to help us in our habeas cases as well. And with the budget supplemental tomorrow, that is the #1 priority for hiring and from our partners, is to hire attorneys who can help with habeas petitions, because we know we've been successful in getting people out of detention. And once we get them out of detention, their chances of being successful in their case are much higher.
Thank you. So we're trying to just keep it to one question just because I want to move to public comment. Anyone else? Okay. Okay, I will ask a question and then later I will move to public comment. This question is more focused on what's our, long-term sustainable strategy to ensure that, we are applying sanctuary law, that we are disseminating information to our communities, because there's a lot of fear. And, you hear, oh, someone was, arrested by ICE. So what are the safe channels? What are we doing to collaborate and prepare? And then what are also some opportunities for public engagement? And we'd love to hear from SFPD and other departments that could provide that information.
Thanks, Commissioner. Great question. I would say we are purveyors of information in the police department. I was just a captain of Park Station. I've been a captain of Ingleside Station, and these issues come up, and I feel like my phone rang at all hours of the day and night with emails and phone calls where we needed to get back within minutes to deconflict issues. I almost laughed that we needed to cancel our monthly community meetings because it's not every 30 days we need to hear from our captains. It's 30 seconds on what's happening. So I would say we have 10 district police stations. My fellow 10 captains would agree with this, that our doors are open, our phone numbers are public. Please give us a call if you have concerns or questions to deconflict things in real time, or issues that you have or concerns about cases that you've had, or whether you should report crime to us. We have people on the ground 24 hours a day that are ready to deconflict and provide information to continue to build the confidence and inspire the trust that you place in us, that we are not agents in this regard, but rather trying to build trust and community and safety at the hyper-local level.
Thank you. So thanks so much. Actually, if we could hear, is the sheriff's office here? Just if we can hear from the sheriff's office. Yes. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Doing an interview.
Oh, he's doing an interview. Okay, right. I guess we can move on to public comment. I will move to 4C. This item is to allow members of the public to address the commission on matters related to the topic of today's hearing. Each public commenter will have, oh, he's here? Okay. So I'll give you a minute, please. If you could, provide an update on, the protocols for the sheriff's office, and also if there's, a way for public engagement, because there's a lot of misinformation around, sanctuary and what's applicable or not, just to ensure that we continue to build, public trust, but also that they know how to engage with your department.
Yes, we're absolutely interested in any opportunities for engagement and to make sure that the public is informed. We're right now updating our videos that I mentioned earlier that are in different languages on our website. We also are coordinating with the Labor Council and trying to meet with different unions on a regular basis to make sure that they have updates as well. A lot of our workforce is represented by the immigrant community, and we want to make sure that they have the opportunity with their labor union groups to be able to also hear the information from us. So that's what we're working on currently right now. We are also open to any opportunities that OSEA will provide us or any of the other city agencies in regards to making sure that people understand completely, but what both, not just ourselves as the sheriff's office, but the police department as well is doing for public safety in this environment.
Thank you so much. So we'll move forward to public comment. Public commenters will have 2 minutes. And if you need interpretation, please let us know. Okay, please begin. Thank you.
Hello. My name is Jo Baum, and I'm a resident of San Francisco. I was present at the Federal Immigration Courthouse at 100 Montgomery Street on July 8th when ICE agents drove their van through a crowd of protesters without regard for who they might injure or kill. There were a number of SFPD officers present that day as well. At no point did I see them intervene to protect the lives of the protesters from the violence of the ICE agents. I understand that local police are not allowed to interfere with legal immigration enforcement activities, but I cannot understand how SFPD can sit by and let ICE agents ram people with their car. In recent months, ICE agents have frequently ignored the laws that are supposed to govern their conduct, and I would like to hear how the city plans to protect people of San Francisco from ICE's illegal activities. Thank you.
Thanks for your comment. Next.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. My name is Sarah Lee. I'm an organizer with the Immigrant Legal Resource Center and also with the Free SF Coalition, which has been around for over 15 years and advocated and defended the SF Sanctuary Ordinance. And I wanted to name how difficult it was for me and so many other advocates this past week to hear Mary Lurie's comments last week when he welcomed continued collusion with federal agencies, all of which subject people to the same horrific conditions that have already been explained today, subjecting people to third country deportations and deadly ICE detention conditions. Year after year, we have seen city leaders scapegoating the immigrant community in order to justify collusion with these federal agencies. And after all these atrocities this year that we've seen, I truly want to ask our city leaders if scapegoating these certain communities will really save us. I invite people to simply pay attention. Raids have happened in red states where there are active anti-immigrant policies. And in LA, DC, and Chicago raids, ICE targets people based on race, class, where people work, and people's proximity to policing, their contact with the criminal system. The Trump administration will threaten raids in the National Guards because of our values in our city, and we shouldn't be cowering. We shouldn't be compromising with extremists like Trump and Stephen Miller. A bully will hit you and then say it's your fault. They want us to turn against each other, and I hope that SF won't let this happen. We've seen that a vast majority of immigrants who have been arrested do not have a record, but even if someone does have a record, they deserve due process and have a chance to have their case shared before a judge. And so when city leaders say that they were willing to work with ICE and other federal agencies like the ATF, FBI, and DEA, we continue to entrench their power to go after all of us. And the city must end our collusion with these federal agencies. We cannot funnel
Thank
anyone
you.
over to ICE.
Thank you for your time. Next public commenter.
Good afternoon. My name is Mia Sorita Nakora. I am a staff attorney with the Immigrant Legal Resource Center, but I'm here as a concerned citizen who lives in San Francisco and pays property taxes. I'll keep it short. We need to cut all ties with federal agencies who are trying to circumvent due process rights to fulfill a political agenda that is targeting our neighbors. Even though the data shows most people who are being apprehended do not have criminal records, those with a record, like everyone else, have due process rights. The federal government does not need our tax dollars, as they have located billions of dollars, that's with a B, to immigration enforcement and delegated their immigration enforcement authority to multiple agencies. And I would just say, let's be part of the right side of history here. I think we are all concerned and we all want to be on the right side. Let's do the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Good evening, and thank you for your time to the members of the commissioner and everyone in attendance today. My name is Fernando Antunes, and I'm here as a member of the Free SF Coalition, as a social worker, and as a member of an immigrant family. I'm here to say that San Francisco must rise above the same mistake being made across the country. If you rest at night saying it's okay to go after criminals, you let this administration slip in through the back door. My family member was held in Adelanto Detention Center spring of this year, and if it weren't for his attorney, he might still be there. If you let an immigration official tell it, my family member was a criminal who warranted deportation. The lesson that day is sometimes you need an attorney to set the record straight on who you, your family, your neighbors are. There are not enough immigration attorneys to confront the challenge ahead of us, and I want to be clear about the challenge ahead of us. It's the threat, it's not the threat, but the promise of militant incursions into our communities at the hands of people with a quota. Unmasked at that, which opens the door to conservative bloodhounds who use the furtive nature of these kidnapping campaigns to further victimize our communities. I'm here to speak not only in defense of Sanctuary, but also to warn those who might rest on the laurels of past victories like Sanctuary to stand with the same clarity for the spirit of that protection. San Francisco does not cross arms, shrug shoulders, or suck teeth when their neighbors are kidnapped by someone who insists on trust while holding their anonymity. Finally, I'll speak to the nervousness that I imagine we all felt half of last week. Now is the opportunity to guard against the feeling of uncertainty, of ambiguity. Not one more tax dollar, tax cent, tax Bitcoin to aid and abet the abduction of our neighbors. Public safety means doing everything we can to keep our neighbors safe from these abductions. Thank you.
Hi, good evening.
Okay, so before we start, so I'm gonna read off from mine, and then whenever I get cut off, they're gonna keep going from where I got cut off. All right, sweet. Okay, so hello, my name is Manny. I'm the chair of the Latino Affairs Commission in the County of Santa Cruz, basically your guys' counterpart down in Santa Cruz. I'm here because my duties to my constituents require that I stand before you and remind that this body, remind you guys that San Francisco is in violation of their sanctuary policy and also California SB 34 through its contract with Flock. Not only will this city's contract affect your constituents, but it will also affect mine because we share data with each other, information which is publicly available. In Capitola, a city in my county, one of the cities we managed to get through public records requests that out-of-state searches were conducted, and they did 4,408,755 searches within just a 6-month period, meaning 4.5 million violations of SB 34. And I'm sure, and we're a small city. I'm sure for you guys, it's much bigger. There's no need to violate people's Fourth Amendment rights with 400 plus cameras daisy-chained to create a mass surveillance apparatus, which will all be monitored in the real-time crime center under the watchful eye of Chris Larson. Flock and other data brokers are part of the ICE and HSI surveillance apparatus and have already participated in the pilot program. Plus, it can be accessed by the FBI and then shared with ICE or the other people in DHS. They profit off of selling data. That is literally the business model. You don't think they've already prepared for cities to try to regulate their business model? They know the federal government will come to their defense. California state policy and sheriff departments have been sharing data with federal agencies, including ICE and DHS, against state law SB 34, even in spite of warnings from the California Attorney General. This data sharing continues, as recently reported by many local and national media outlets. These cameras are a violation of the Fourth Amendment rights, which protect us, all of us, against searches when we are neither accused of nor have committed any crimes. These ALPRs track everyone's comings and goings and contribute to a national database that can easily be abused by authorities at the federal or local level without warrants or probable cause.
Hi, I'm a San Francisco city resident, very strongly in support of my colleague here, and I'll pick off where they left off. We recommend that you not only talk about recommending the city stop the current expansion of Flock, but you should also talk about recommending the city take down the cameras the city already has. You may be able to take Flock to court for breach of contract, but you can't undeport someone. Our recommendation would be that you ask the Board of Supervisors to adopt a sensitive information and data broker ordinance like the one passed by Huntington Park, down in Huntington Park, California. As proven by this last weekend, Trump will come for the city, he will come for the Bay Area, and there's no going under the radar. It's only a matter of time before the National Guard troops are back occupying the city. No amount of appeasement from Daniel Lurie will prevent the federal government from cracking down. 1,200 people already went missing from Alligator Auschwitz. That is the beginning of another American genocide within its own borders. Will you continue to allow the city to give American fascism the inch it needs to take a mile, or are you going to let the community actually resist against fascism? Don't help American fascism by filling their concentration camps. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
大家好啊，我係華人權益促進會 CAA 嘅社區工作人員。最近聯邦政府咧公開表明咧，可能派遣嗰個國民警衛軍嚟嗰個三藩市社區進行大型嘅移民執法行動。所以咧，我哋喺10月22號咧就帶嗰個海報喺橫埠同啲商家宣傳，俾佢哋知道咧就我哋嘅社區係點樣知道移民嘅權益。同埋點樣面對大型嘅移民執法行動，同埋三藩市免費嘅移民緊急求助熱線，好多商家咧就非常擔心，可能嚴重影響到佢經濟嘅收益。佢哋咧都好驚，唔敢出門去購物啊，同埋工作睇醫生啊，同埋送小朋友返學。已經經歷咗疫情嘅創傷，如果再有聯邦移民執法行動，會嚴重導致佢冇生意啦、冇工作啦，同埋生活更加困難。當我哋嘅庇護政策被違反嘅時候，應該迅速並嚴厲地追究責任，否則我哋嘅庇護只係名義上嘅，並沒有實質性嘅意義。三藩市作為庇護城市，不能向聯邦政府妥協，亦有責任同義務為每一位居民提供服務同埋保護，尤其係少數族裔英語能力有限嘅家庭，要真正提升社區嘅安全與信任，提供經濟保障與教育公平，我哋必須實施庇護政策。提供緊急援助嘅經費支持，加強市府與社區組織同居民嘅溝通合作，咁樣呢，三藩市先至成為一個包容、安全、守護所有居民嘅庇護城市。Thank you.
Hello everyone, I am a community outreach worker at Chinese for Affirmative Action CAA. The federal government recently announced the possibility of deploying the National Guards to San Francisco communities to conduct large-scale immigration enforcement operations. In response, on October 22nd, we distributed posters to businesses in Chinatown to help educate our community about immigrant rights, how to respond to such enforcement operations, and San Francisco Free Rapid Response Hotline. Many business owners are deeply concerned about the potential impact on our livelihoods. People fear going to the shop, work, to doctor's appointment, or to send their children to school. Having already endured the trauma of the pandemic, additional federal immigration enforcement actions would cause further economic harms, leading to more business closure, job losses, and greater hardship for our community. When our sanctuary policy are violated, those responsible must be held accountable swiftly and decisively. Otherwise, our sanctuary protection becomes merely symbolic without real meaning. As a sanctuary city, San Francisco cannot compromise with the federal government. The city has both a responsibility and an obligation to provide services and protection to all residents, especially minority families with limited English proficiencies. To truly enhance community safety and trust, and to ensure economic security and educational equity, we must implement and uphold sanctuary policies, provide sufficient funding for emergency assistance, and strengthen communication and collaboration between the city, community organization, and residents. Only by doing so can San Francisco remain a sanctuary city that is inclusive of its residents. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next.
Good evening, commissioners. My name is Crystal, and I'm with Chinese for Affirmative Action. San Francisco is one of the most linguistically diverse and culturally vibrant cities in the country, and home to immigrants that make up 1/3 of our population. Immigrants are the backbone of our community. Yet, just last week, we again faced heightened attacks from the current federal administration, with threats to deploy mass federal agencies into our SF communities. These egregious anti-immigrant actions and rhetoric have stoked fear, separated families, and disrupted our economy. As a sanctuary city, San Francisco has the responsibility to foster community safety, promote economic stability, advance educational equity, and ensure residents can live without fear of federal immigration enforcement. However, it was revealed that the SF Police Department allowed non-local law enforcement to unlawfully access city surveillance data on behalf of ICE, a clear violation of our sanctuary commitments. Sanctuary policies are only effective when they are properly implemented and enforced. When violations occur, there must be consequences and corrective action. Otherwise, sanctuary becomes a useless label. Last week, residents and community organizations mobilized promptly to protect and prepare our families and neighborhoods. While our communities were scared and anxious, we are also united, determined, and ready to stand up for our rights. Thanks to the decades of work by our trusted immigrant rights organization and networks like SF Island, SFILDC, and Rapid Response Network. To ensure that residents can trust the city to uphold our sanctuary values and our collective rights, we call on the Commission to 1, recommend comprehensive accountability measures for policy violation, and 2, increase resources for immigrants serving organizations. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Hi. Sorry, I'm super emotional. As a parent and San Francisco resident, I recently moved here and never had to experience something that I thought that I would have to prepare my children for. I understand that schools are separate entities, but I urge not only the schools, but you guys to get involved and collaborate. Last week, I had to ask another parent if she was going to be sending her children to school. The question was, are you prepared for your child to see another child detained? that is something that rings in my heart to know that I have to prepare my children to see people being taken. And it isn't something that my family hasn't felt for years because I'm Indigenous and Chicana. So that deep-rooted trauma is something that our generations have felt prior to us. But we need to end it now. We need to take a stance to make our children understand that moving forward, we're going to do something. So as a mother, I have not felt better from sending my children to school because there has been no action plan that has been sent to me from the superintendent, from my kid's school that says, hey, if ICE enters campus, this is what we're going to do. There has been zero reassurance to any of that. So there needs to be some sort of language that the school needs to be accountable that, hey, we have this action plan implemented. But thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next.
Hi, my name is Ben. I'm a San Francisco City resident, and I'm also here to talk about flock safety. I'm a software engineer, and I have experience, securing back-end systems. So I have a pretty good understanding of, first of all, how difficult it is to actually ensure any security guarantees around the data you're storing, as well as the financial incentives that can dominate a company's decision about who to share data with, especially with powerful entities. My understanding is the city has a $3.9 million with flock safety that expires in 2017, which operates 400 plus cameras around the city that are basically automatically reading every license plate of every car that that drives by and stores it in a database. And I also read in the SF Standard last month, they reported that actually there were over 1.6 million searches by out-of-state law enforcement agencies of San Francisco's license plate database, which violates the sanctuary city laws as well as AB 34, as was previously mentioned, the state law. Now, that's not the worst of it. There's also a default user agreement with Flock Safety, which states that they can actually independently share the data that they collect or that you collect on their systems with federal agencies. And to make matters worse, obviously, they're ramping up their surveillance apparatus. They recently partnered with Ring Camera to start integrating private cameras into the surveillance apparatus. And also, obviously, this all dovetails with Trump's policies such as NSPM 7, which actually directs federal agencies to investigate First Amendment protected speech of its citizens, including just general anti-U.S. government sentiment. So, with all that said, I think I would encourage the city and the SF Police Department, if they're seriously concerned about the safety of our citizens and following the law, please terminate the contract with Flock as soon as possible. And if not, at the very least, review the user agreement immediately and try to eliminate any provision that would allow them to share this data with the government. Thank you.
Next. And no applause, please. Thank you.
This microphone. Good evening, commissioners. Thank you so much for having us tonight. My name is Omar Del Rio, San Francisco Latino Task Force co-chair of the Employment Economic Committee. Also recently appointed the Chief Operating Officer at Mission Hiring Hall. First and foremost, I want to thank the commission for making time for this special hearing. Also want to state that it has been incredibly difficult to offer employment services to the migrant community of San Francisco and beyond. I would like to publicly state that my colleagues and I are doing everything that we can in our power to continue to offer free employment services to anyone who needs them. And I hope the commission recommends that there's more collaboration efforts against ICE informant across San Francisco, the Bay Area, California, and the United States of America. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next. Hi, good evening.
Good evening, commissioners. My name is Nathan Shonis, and I am with the San Francisco Living Wage Coalition. I want to uplift the work of Nuevo Sol, a day laborer and domestic worker organization, and other organizations that meet at the Center for Social and Economic Justice on the Adopt a Corner campaign. This is an inspiring movement in San Francisco where residents go to locations where day laborers gather to bear witness for the safety of their working class neighbors and to watch for any ICE incursion. Participants of this movement continue to show workers that they have their back and that they've also been informing businesses in the neighborhood on how they can protect their workers and customers. I urge the city to support this grassroots movement and the organization Nuevo Sol, a democratically run hiring hall that has been connecting immigrants and working class people with jobs, services, training, and particularly now with increased education on their legal rights. We also urge the city of San Francisco to continue their promise to be a sanctuary city and not to collaborate with law enforcement, federal law enforcement to be specific. We believe that immigrants have the right to due process when they are on U.S. soil, and by collaborating with ICE and other federal law enforcement, you will be collaborating with agencies that do not honor the dignity of immigrants, many of whom are working class. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next.
Buenas noches, muchísimas gracias por darme la oportunidad de hablar. Mi nombre es Juana Flores y yo pertenezco y represento a Mujeres Unidas y Activas.
Good evening. Thank you for providing me the opportunity to speak. My name is Juana Flores, and I represent Mujeres Unidas y Activas, MUA.
Y bueno, estoy aquí para decir tres cosas. Primero, agradezco mucho que tengamos interpretación y que hoy nos vinieron a decir que hay varios idiomas y quisiera pedir el grupo de las compañeras o de la comunidad MAM que ha crecido mucho. Ellos necesitan traducción también.
And I'm here to mention three things. First of all, I want to thank you for providing interpretation in multiple languages. And I want to bring to your attention that there is a large mom-speaking community that also needs translation services.
La otra es seguir continuando con el apoyo a la comunidad. Nos vienen aquí a hablar muy bonito y sí lo creo y lo creemos, pero la verdad es de que hay muchas personas que cuando van a sus citas ya no salen, incluso cuando acuerdan ya son deportados. Entonces sí queremos que eso se tome mucho en cuenta. Muchas de las personas ya no quieren ir a sus citas de inmigración y eso también es un peligro para ellos.
Second, I want you to continue supporting the community. We're hearing some really beautiful things and I believe them, but the truth is a lot of people are fearful of going to their appointments. They go in and they never come out and they're eventually deported. And so there are many people afraid of going to their immigration appointments.
La comunidad tiene que seguir escuchando que están y que están con nosotros, porque hay mucho miedo. Muchos trabajadores ya se autodespidieron de sus trabajos por miedo a migración. Hay muchos trabajadores que ya están en sus casas como otra pandemia, como dijo alguien hace rato, ¿no? Una pandemia de miedo, de terror, de humillación, de arriesgar sus vidas, porque muchos de ellos vienen aquí porque en sus países están amenazados. Entonces, sí queremos seguir escuchando esto. Como Mujeres Unidas, damos presentaciones de Conozca sus derechos, tenemos foros con abogados, tenemos también notarios que ayudan con sus de emergencia, sus, ¿cómo se llaman? Plan de emergencia. Pero eso tiene que seguir más ampliamente y si queremos que migración no llegue al área de la bahía.
And we continue needing to hear that you're with us because there is a lot of fear. There are a lot of workers who have laid themselves off for fear of immigration. A lot of people are staying at home just like the pandemic. Somebody mentioned that earlier. It's a pandemic of fear, of terror, and of humiliation. A lot of these people are risking their lives by just being here because they were threatened, risking their lives to come here because they were threatened in their own country. And at MUA, we do a lot of Know Your Rights presentations, work on doing emergency planning, but we need to increase all of these so that people can feel supported.
Muchísimas gracias por la atención.
Thank you so much for your attention.
Gracias a usted. Next.
Good afternoon, commissioners, and thank you for holding this commission. I'm going to be reading the comments of a doula who could not make it. She is out of the country for reasons. And her name is Leah Alvazada, and she is a full spectrum doula and founder of Golden Gate Parenting Solutions here in SF. And she says, today I speak not as an abstract advocate, but as someone who witnesses the consequences of fear every day. I support pregnant immigrants who skip prenatal care because they are terrified that seeking help could bring immigration enforcement to their door. I support survivors of domestic violence who will not call 911 because they fear ICE more than they fear their abuser. Right now, I have a client with preeclampsia who was arrested after her partner called ICE when she tried to call the police for protection. This is not theoretical. People die when we delay care. They die from uncontrolled bleeding, from preeclampsia, from labor complications that become fatal without timely treatment. Fear of ICE turns hospitals, clinics, and shelters from places of refuge into places of terror. San Francisco has always stood for safety and for compassion and for sanctuary. I ask you to honor that promise to keep ICE out of our hospitals, shelters, clinics, and birthing spaces. Protect the pregnant people, survivors, and newborns who depend on the city as a place of refuge and a bridge, not as a barrier.
Thank you. Next.
Namaste. We were here in May 8, 2023, when we had asked for an LGBT.
Before you proceed, so it's my understanding that you're also reading someone else's statement?
If I'm allowed to.
Yes.
But I was told I only get 2 minutes for both.
I'll give you 3. I'll give you
Thank
3
you.
minutes.
I'll go very fast.
Thank you.
So we were here on May 8, 2023 for an LGBTQI hearing, and the only good thing I can see come out of that is Commissioner Ruiz is here representing the global trans immigrant community. But I'm here to really ask if this city is a sanctuary city for transgender people, is it a sanctuary city for transgender immigrants too? I'm Anjali Remy. I'm representing the California Coalition of Transgender Immigrants, including Parivar Bay Area, Voces Trans Latinx, and so many other trans immigrant organizations. Through this coalition, we were able to launch last week the grassroots legal access program that provides stipends and pro bono and low bono services to transgender immigrants, but the program is open to all. I'm here to tell you that rapid response for transgender immigrants means survival, because in these times we have to escape harm for being vilified for our gender identity. We have dual fears of gender-based violence and immigration enforcement and the predatory behaviors of our legal immigration population professionals who embark on our trans vulnerabilities. I'm really here to ask that apathy within the immigrant communities needs to end towards the transgender immigrants, and we need to throw out transphobia. And I'm really asking the Commission and OCA to call back a transgender immigrant hearing to really understand what has happened to our community when we have been left behind, especially having trans-led organizations to be supported with the Stand Together Bay Area Fund and be able to have a seat at the table when decisions are being made. We really urge to go beyond investments and really begin with inclusion. We know as transgender immigrant leaders what is best for our communities beyond just translations. We urge this commission to ensure that every trans immigrant and leadership are part of every city response, and that we are not lumped into other intersectional identities, and really ask us to be at the table and show up for transgender immigrants in all the programs, ensuring that their voices are represented. I also want to share notes from Fanny Land, who is with Parivar Bay Area as the Director of Strategy. For our trans immigrant communities, true investment is much more than funding. We asked the Commission, OCA, and OTI, the Office of Transgender Initiatives, to invest and collaborate with trans-led immigrant organizations, providing sustained resources, communication, and guidance, include trans immigrants in all city forums, response efforts, and leadership programs, working with us, not just for us, and most importantly, report transparently on engagement and funding that reach trans and global South immigrant communities and what that data looks like. Trans immigrants belong here. If San Francisco truly wants to remain a world model for equity, it must show that pride through action by investing in partnership, visibility, and dignity for all of us in these very critical rapid response times. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Greetings, council people. I'm really grateful for you and your hearts in choosing this way to serve your community. I can feel it back there, and I know a lot of people can, so thank you. My name is Reverend Mary Lobig Giles. First, I want to just say I'm a concerned neighbor. I've lived, worked, and raised a family in the city for the past 2 decades. I'm also a pastor of a house church in San Francisco. I and a small cohort of concerned neighbors have been showing up at the immigration courts weekly for the past 2 months. We offer welcoming presence and do courtroom observation and accompaniment, and I wanted to share some of the things that I've been observing on the ground. At one hearing recently, I witnessed attorneys struggling to explain to an immigrant without an interpreter that their case had been dismissed. 3 ICE agents were waiting outside the courtroom doors. At another, I listened as a mother of 2 young children was told through an interpreter who did not speak her dialect that the judge was giving her one final court date to plead her case. I'm pretty sure she left not understanding that if she didn't get legal help, she and her kids would likely be deported. I've seen a mother and her son arrive hours early for their hearing, nervous and hungry, not sure if they should stay or go. I've spoken with a young man in tears who told me how frightened his mother was attending court that morning and her prayers that ICE would not be waiting for her. These are all law-abiding citizens trying to do the right thing. We're deeply concerned about the safety and well-being of these neighbors. I've revised my ask after hearing this entire hearing. There's so many wise and wonderful people, but we want to see a no contact rule, a bright line between departments of the city and ICE. We'd like to see a no ICE zone in the city. And I thank you all for your time.
Thank you. Next.
Good evening. My name is Annie Seen, and I'm a founder of Asian American Alliance Against Racism. I am currently collaborating with an immigration law firm to provide pro bono services to the detained migrants that deserve the due process. Before I came today, I live 2 blocks from here. Right before I came, I watched TikTok live video. Employer, a business owner in San Jose was detained trying to protect his immigrant employee. And I have saw another live video in San Francisco. They're breaking into car windows, yanking females out of the car when they're going to work. And I have also seen the ICE agents, some of them have a criminal record. Some of them are bounty hunters. And they are manhandling young teenage girls to young adults and to seniors. And that is inhumane. Back in 2017, during Trump's first ICE target, that time Mayor Atlee was still the mayor of San Francisco. He set aside $5 million to Jeff Adachi. He's also deceased. And plus, along with the team members, contain a field board of supervisors, they are still serving as their last term here. And that project went away after Atlee and Jeff Adachi deceased. I would love to see that project is recreated enough to let the nonprofits, large and small, like myself, my nonprofit is only 2 years old, that we are able to contribute to, and also we receive resources to better service and help our fellow migrants. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next.
Hi, my name is Leah, and I'm here as a member of the San Francisco chapter of Showing Up for Racial Justice. I'm also a longtime resident of San Francisco who's afraid for the safety of my immigrant coworkers, neighbors, and friends. Right now, the Trump administration is scapegoating these very immigrants to distract from their failed economic policies that are actually hurting working families every day. Last weekend, ICE took 25 community members in Stockton, and cities across the country remain under attack. Deploying hundreds of federal agents into our cities is a massive abuse of power. Here's what we know. ICE is going to lie about our local policies while they are abducting our neighbors and friends. ICE is targeting everyone, including people with legal status, workers, seniors, Spanish speakers, Black and Brown communities, and others who stand up for justice. ICE vilifies people who are incarcerated. Most people targeted by ICE do not have criminal records, but no matter their immigration or criminal status, everyone should have due process, including the opportunity for an immigration judge to consider their case. Once someone is abducted by ICE, they are subject to inhumane conditions, neglect, and other systematic abuses. They are also at risk of being deported, detained, and tortured. Our city should play no part in this great injustice. Not 1 cent of our local tax dollars should ever be used to aid and abet the abduction of our neighbors. Our local leaders must stand up for the basic rights of every member of our community. Sheriff Miyamoto, Interim Chief Yep, and District Attorney Jenkins must fully uphold our sanctuary laws. We cannot give in to the Trump administration's bullying and manipulation. Sheriff Miyamoto must resist ICE's threats and refuse to turn any of our neighbors over to ICE. Local police and sheriff deputies should not act as security for ICE, nor should they manage traffic and create perimeters as ICE abducts our neighbors. San Francisco must also cut ties with federal agencies who are fast-tracking our immigrant neighbors to ICE and depriving people of due process. We believe our tax dollars should strengthen schools, hospitals, and safe neighborhoods, not tear families apart. Thank you so much.
Next.
Good evening. My name is Jennifer J. Deb Wagner. I'm here speaking tonight on behalf of the League of Women Voters of San Francisco. This is an official comment from them. You've heard many people speak tonight, and my comments are focused very specifically on more than 7 years of observing the San Francisco Police Commission and, when possible, observing the Sheriff Oversight Board. We need you to provide oversight of law enforcement for transparency and for accountability, especially when the federal government will pressure the sheriff and police to undermine what they say is their #1 priority, to protect the people of San Francisco. I wish it were enough for law enforcement to say they protect sanctuary, but we need and deserve to have their essential, powerful commitments confirmed and documented. And we need to challenge horrific language from our politicians about abstract criminalization, which results in unjust disappearances. You must insist on proof, hear concerns, and then do what is needed for immigrant rights. Tonight, for example, Angela Chan with the Public Defender's Office has raised for some time, not just at this meeting, best practices we need in our local law enforcement policies. Why haven't those changes been adopted? Start asking questions about that. Focus on making these concrete improvements happen. The public deserves to know about potential vulnerabilities, complaints, and recommendations from all San Franciscans, and they need to be taken seriously. Please keep questioning vague answers and ask specific questions like you have tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Hello, my name is Connie Jo Mills. I'm a member of Indivisible SF. I also volunteer as a community mentor for the San Francisco Education Fund at local schools with large immigrant populations. Every young person has a right to attend school, but it's a known fact that sharp declines in student attendance this year is directly related to ICE activity in our neighborhoods. We are a sanctuary city, and no one should live in fear of leaving their home due to ICE raids. We need our local leaders, including Sheriff Miyamoto and Interim Police Chief Yep, to fully uphold our sanctuary laws and stand up for the basic rights of every person in this city by not cooperating with ICE in any manner. Our taxpayer money should fund vital resources for our schools and immigrant communities, not be used to help the Trump administration create a police state environment that scares our young people from attending school and rips their families apart due to inhumane detention and deportation. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Good evening. Thank you, commissioners. My name is Elizabeth Boyarsky, and I'm an concerned SF resident and educator. I come here tonight because I'm asking for a clear and accessible plan of action coming from our city's top leadership regarding protection for our immigrant community, and a clear plan that will help us all stand united as a sanctuary city, as we've seen in other cities, such as Chicago right now. It's truly inspiring. Makes me think, what can we do in San Francisco? As an educator, I'm very concerned for students and families that are immigrants that are fearing going to school and coming home. I'm concerned also as an educator for fellow teachers and administrators who do not have the bandwidth, resources, or mental health resources to support their team and to support families that are fearing a raid outside of school. So that is my concern. Thank you so much for your time tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Good evening. My name is Erica Wang. I'm the Immigrant Justice Lead for Indivisible San Francisco, and I come tonight in support of Free SF's recommendations to improve our sanctuary reach. We need to join our Bay Area neighbor counties in strengthening our immigration policy and standing against state violence and tyranny. As Martin Luther King said, one has not only a legal but moral responsibility to obey just laws. Conversely, one has a moral responsibility to disobey unjust laws. Now is the time for courage, allyship, and clear directives. History has shown us that bullies can never be appeased, only stood up to. It is time to stand up and be on the right side of history, knowing we did everything to protect our people. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Good evening. Thank you. My name is Michael Stenberg. I'm a long-term resident of San Francisco. I moved here a month before the quake. That would be the earthquake of '89, not '06. We see ICE agents arresting people on the streets of San Francisco and other cities. My question is, do we, the people, have the opportunity to arrest ICE agents who may be in violation of the sanctuary laws or any other regulations that the city has in place? Towards that end, if an ICE agent were to, say, drive a car into a crowd of people, would that agent be liable for prosecution or arrest by the city of San Francisco? The second part and final part of the question is, if there is opportunity to monitor their activities on the streets, is there some way that the city or volunteers could either organized or random see what happens when an ICE agent or an ICE group is out patrolling the streets? Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
So hi, my name is Andre Goga. I'm a physician here in San Francisco. I've been here almost 30 years. And today I bring words both from myself, but also from one of my colleagues, that immigrants are a vital part of this community. They're the city's heartbeat. They're our neighbors, co-workers, and friends. And when their rights are ignored or violated, the entire community suffers. So I urge the commission to continue to stand up for the policies that protect our immigrant communities, push back against federal overreach, and make it clear that our city values human dignity, fairness, and safety for all who call it home. And I would add, from sitting here in the audience, it seems like there's a few like immediately actionable concrete things we can do. So we heard that 45 people were disappeared that did not have legal representation. We also heard that 10 to 15 additional lawyers could have prevented that. So that seems like a monetary thing. We know that immigrants pay their fair share of taxes, including, different types of taxes. San Francisco pays amongst the highest per capita per individual, right? So we should use some of that money to support additional lawyers. A second thing is we should follow the lead of Illinois. They have an integrated response. We've heard about the rapid response team, but we need to make this integrated, turnkey, and crowdsourced so that there's an app, there's a button people push, and they know there's an ICE activity, and people are made aware, within the legal confines, but such that if someone is abducted, this can all be streamlined. We're in the tech capital of the world, and it should be possible to do this. So I think there's some things that starting tomorrow can be done to make this better.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next.
Good evening, commissioners. I just want to say thank you to all of you for making this possible. And I'm Jason Jimenez. I work with Calle 24 Latino Cultural District, but I'm here because I want to talk from just as Jason. Jason is a Colombian immigrant, gay, refugee of the city. And I just want to say that I found it that this was my promised land. But right now, it seems that it's affected by the narrative out there. And I just wanted to let you know that I stopped surviving and started living. And thanks to San Francisco, it's kind of hard to say we in this moment because of the same narrative. But I just wanted to let you know that you guys already fight this war. San Francisco was a place for new people to start living here and feeling happy and comfortable inside themselves. So you should keep this in mind, and you should keep fighting for this. So that's why I'm here, because of all the people, gay people, who not decided to feel uncomfortable where they were living, I'm talking about the people who found this place as a place to start living, to start to feeling happy inside themselves. And just keep in mind that this world, this fight was already on our side. And don't forget this face, because this face is now better thanks to San Francisco.
Thank you. Next.
Good evening. My name is Janet Potter. I'm third generation California of immigrant stock. And the reason I came tonight was because my friend asked me, what did Mayor Lurie do to call the feds off? And I thought, I better come and find out for myself. And I did learn. I learned an awful lot tonight. The thing I think that was most important to learn is we're not doing enough. We're not keeping pace with our neighborhood counties, and I applaud your work, your concerns, and I urgently suggest that we keep pace or exceed the values and support of our sanctuary laws as our neighborhood counties. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Hi, I'm a Mission resident and an employee in the public school system here in SF. Someone else was saying this earlier, but the day following the ICE and National Guard threat, a discouraging proportion of students didn't show up to school. On top of teachers taking on roles like gun violence defense, political advocate, and social worker, they're now playing lawyer and protector against the big bad kidnapper. I understand that the public school system is a separate organizing entity, but the school does not start in the classroom. It starts even before the commute. If fear of federally sanctioned abductions is preventing our children from eating 2 meals a day, from peer support, from education, then it is the responsibility of the city to act in the highest degree. Complacency on the local level makes those abductions city sanctioned as well. It is not the lack of involvement with ICE that we need, it is an active defense against it. Presenters have given a number of action items that they must not sit as recommendations and come to fruition as immediately as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Hello, I'm Rosemary King. I'm a resident of San Francisco. I belong to an organization as a member called SF Village. It's really an organization for old people so we can network with each other. But we're old people with a lot of concerns about what's happening in our city. So there's a handful of us that came tonight because we care so much about our city and our immigrants, our co-residents of this wonderful city. You're in the eye of a storm now. I mean, there's so much happening in our country and in this city. I so much appreciate the work that you're doing, the work that the speakers who stood up and presented are doing, and actually the work that so many of the public commenters are doing. It's fantastic. It's a wonderful city to live in. I feel like San Francisco can indeed be a beacon for how do we deal with immigrant rights? How do we make this an inclusive country, but certainly city? And the devil is in the details. So I appreciated Commissioner Ng's question to SFPD. Well, what specifically how would you specifically address this situation? And that's what we need to really push, like some other speakers have mentioned. So when people dressed in black, wearing black masks, are shuffling people into a black car, should the SFPD stop them and say, wait, who are you? Show me your ID, show me your warrant, de-escalate it a bit. Even if they end up not being able to do as much intervention as they would like, at least they're responding. That incident that happened on Montgomery Street, my son-in-law happened to be there also, walking down the street. So a black car drove erratically, threatening people. And indeed, like one of the other speakers said, can we address that by stopping them, detaining them, determining what's really safe for our community? That same incident included someone standing on the street with an assault rifle, pointed it at unarmed people. How do we address that?
Thank you for your comments.
Okay. Thank you so much for your work.
Next.
Hello there. I am a long-term resident of San Francisco and a resident of D6. I have never made a public comment before, so thanks, ICE, for getting the community mobilized. I'd like to underscore that protest in the form of protective presence at 100 Montgomery in front of the courthouse works. Since May, arrests from ICE in that courthouse were routine occurrence, but I'm happy to report that based on community-gathered data, September was the first month in which ICE arrests dropped down to 0 at 100 Montgomery. And this happened because of brave protesters who were willing to put their bodies on the line and willing to non-violently intervene. And yes, that does cause traffic interruptions. But I want you to know that SFPD is not neutral in this. SFPD has acted actively to quash those protests, which we know have been effective in protecting immigrants. So with your permission, I'd like to share a 10-second clip of a radio broadcast in which SFPD dispatch is lying on behalf of ICE. ICE actually incompetently pepper sprayed themselves, not protesters, and backup was called. See if I can get this to play. Okay, this is SFPD requesting backup on behalf of ICE in response to an actual bold-faced lie. So I want to underscore a couple of things. One, it is legal to apply for asylum. It is legal. These people are in our country and they are doing things the legal way. However, what ICE is doing, what SFPD is doing is looking the other way as they commit crimes. We're seeing SFPD tolerate pointing assault rifles at protesters. We're seeing SFPD coming to their aid when these lies are made. And I want to see SFPD hold these people accountable.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your comment. Next.
Good evening, commissioners, and thank you for the excellent meeting that you put together. It's very informative. My name is Tess Wellborn, District 5 resident for a long time. I also want to endorse Free SF's recommendations and other good recommendations you've heard, like working across counties. I'm also a member of Indivisible, and I was very proud that some Indivisible members, as well as other people, went to Stockton and got there like at 7 a.m. and helped stop the potential arrests that occurred on Saturday. They didn't occur on Sunday. So something like that. But I would also like you to think about additional dimensions of this. It's bad enough that immigrants are being targeted, but we know, of course, that it will escalate up the line. And we know that trans people have already been targeted. They're talking about going after gay marriage, and it just moves up the line. But I also would like to point out that there's this urban warfare aspect, that the practice session that they did in Chicago where agents rappelled down in the middle of the night from a helicopter, dragged people out of their home, their apartments, threw children on the ground and handcuffed them, often nude children. I mean, it was night. People were in bedclothes, at least, or bed sheets. So I think we have to try to think ahead of the game a couple of steps, and that there will be an opportunity, maybe in our city, other cities, where the feds will be doing things that are much more egregious. That egregious doesn't sound strong enough. So let us fight those battles too. Thank you.
Thank
or
you.
plan for them.
Next.
Hello. Yeah, thanks so much for hearing comments from so many amazing community members, and thank you for all your time today. I want to share two main things. The first is that you heard from the public defenders and different organizations helping immigrants. It's great to continue resourcing them and giving more funds, but it's even better to make it super public so that everybody knows that they exist. As we know and we've heard, like, immigrants are afraid to go to schools, go to work, do all these things. And there are ways that you can recommend our local government to show up in ways like the mayor of Chicago did, and show up to businesses and be very public in their support of immigrants and their support of showing businesses explicitly how to defend their private spaces from ICE, be very cohesive about it. I would encourage you to make that encouragement. And then the second part of my statement is about strengthening sanctuary city policies. It's not enough to just follow the sanctuary city policies that already exist. And I know that you recognize that because I heard you talk about it at the beginning. The sanctuary policies that we have here in San Francisco need to be strengthened based on the examples that we see in other cities, even cities that are so close to us in the neighboring counties, as people have mentioned. I'd encourage you to adopt the policies recommended in Free SF, and then as well as all the different policies that you can read about in the local policy interventions to protect immigrants from the ILRC, the Immigrant Resource Legal Center that you can find online and that I'm reading from. These include multi-agency prohibitions on immigration enforcement, limiting jail to ICE transfers, prohibitions on patrol officers working with ICE, due process protections, criminal legal reforms protecting immigrants, and rejecting or terminating contracts with ICE or CBP. As I heard earlier from SFPD and the Sheriff's Office, who didn't care to stay for the rest of the public comment, you may say, like, what are you doing in this case to stop approvals? And they say, like, oh, there's 5 approvals until it gets approved.
Comment.
Okay, yeah, thanks so much. I have so much more. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for being here. Please, no applause. Is there any other public comment or anyone else? Okay. So I will be closing this item. Thank you so much for all the community for showing up and providing your input. Also, I want to acknowledge all the public comment that was submitted via email, and also appreciate those listening via WebEx. But now I will pass it to Commissioner Obregon so she can share some remarks.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, I just want to express my gratitude once again to the presenters and to all the community members who came and stepped up. It's really important that we give immigrants a voice, and I just want to make sure to also extend my gratitude to allies. It's really important for allies to show up and defend immigrants like myself. I think that we heard a lot of good information. I personally learned a lot. I have a lot of other questions and ideas, and I really want us to kind of capitalize on this momentum and the urgency that we feel coming from community to be able to develop concrete recommendations for us to give to the mayor and board of supervisors. And so I'm wondering what we can establish, if we can establish like a process and a timeline on how we can develop those recommendations and make sure that we are able to communicate this by our next meeting. Because I know one of the things that is that sometimes our processes can be a little slow. And so I'm wondering if I'm willing to take the lead in terms of transcribing all of the notes that I've been taking all this meeting, highlighting some of the themes that I've heard, highlighting some of the ideas that we've gotten from the presenters and community, and to start developing recommendations based on those and then forwarding them to the executive committee. So I guess I'm referring to you to like, how could we possibly move this as fast as we can?
So I just, for the record, your next meeting is on November 10th. That's 2 weeks from today.
Oh, perfect.
So if any action or any item needs to be presented on the agenda, we need to work, I need to work closely with the chair. In terms of recommendations, I think, of course, we're taking notes, the meeting's recorded, and I think compiling recommendation or thinking about what recommendations you as a commission want to put forth will require some collaboration, and we're happy to help coordinate communication between commissioners to make sure that we don't violate any Brown Act or rules during those communications between now and next week, or 2 weeks.
Okay, there's no executive committee before, prior to that?
There's no executive committee between now and then.
So the process that we're suggesting is basically, I can take a lead on a document, and then perhaps everybody can contribute on their own to recommendations, and then we can bring them back 2 weeks from now to see if as a commission we can move them forward. Is that, did I get that correctly?
That's a possible, yeah, that's probably
That's a
possibility as a
possibility.
process, yes. I think, yes.
Okay, so are you done with your remarks?
Yes. Okay. So I think we have a plan. I just want to make sure that people are here and that they know that we also have a process to follow, in that in order for us to develop recommendations, we have to kind of follow the process that is set by OSEA staff. So if we could work together to, make sure that we can put something together by November 10th, that would be great, because I feel it's important to respond to our community. And then, yeah, once again, thank you all for really listening very intensively to our presenters and to our community.
Thank you, Commissioner Obregon. I actually just want to clarify that, we do have to comply with some of the processes in place because we have, bylaws. And, for the next meeting, we can coordinate with OSEA, suggest that, the chair coordinates with, you as a lead. But I think for a more impactful recommendation, I suggest that we actually discuss at the executive committee, because I think the more deliberations we have on topics, we're able to prioritize and be better informed on what would be more impactful for our community. I just want to clarify that, but this is not time for discussion back and forth, and this is not introduction for new business, but just, we'll continue to engage. I just want to add that, yes,
I just want to make sure that we're able to lift this up
Of
in a
course.
timely manner.
Yeah.
And if by this year,
Yeah.
and I understand that we can kick it to the executive committee, but I still would like for us to set a goal to respond to this by the end of this year.
Yeah, no, I mean, I concur with you, and I have a shared commitment on that as well. I just want to share some remarks before we go to the next item. So first, I would like to thank again Commissioner Obregon for her remarkable work in leading the planning of this special hearing, and to Director Rivas and the entire team, and also to the interpreters for your hard work. We appreciate you. For making this meeting more accessible. And, to all the speakers, thank you all for showing up and answering our questions. And, I look forward to continued engagement. Director Millie Atkinson from San Francisco Immigrant Legal Defense Program, Deputy City Attorney Carol Tilak, Police Chief Yap and his team, Public Defender's Office, the Sheriff's Office, also, OSEA team as well. Richard Repo, Deputy Director, thank you for your presentation. Very informative. As we continue to uplift the resources available for our community. Thank you to community members for, again, the robust public comment and participation in ensuring immigrant needs remain a priority. I will conclude this portion of the special hearing by saying this. We're facing unprecedented times when constitutional rights are under attack. As a sanctuary city, we must continue to uplift the needs of San Francisco diverse immigrant communities, ensure they have access to city resources, and disseminate information to prevent any misinformation and fear in our communities, and equipping our immigrant neighbors and small business to plan accordingly in case of emergencies. Let's keep sharing resources available and uplifting the strength of our beloved immigrant neighbors, including supporting small business owns to support their strength and resilience. I know we're very focused on short term, how we respond to the legal aspect, but also let's uplift their humanity and enjoy addition the Tenderloin in Chinatown, the Mission, Clement. Show up as a community, because that's the only way we're going to win. And for the next steps, I concur with Commissioner Obregon and really wanting to act on this as soon as possible. The executive committee will review the information further to ensure again that we have a fair representation of all the public comments, and that we formulate recommendations that are responsive to our community, to be submitted to the mayor and board of supervisors. And again, I look forward to having you come back to our meetings. We meet every second Monday of the month, except when we have holidays, we adjust some of the meeting dates. But we also have the executive committee, so you can submit public comment via email, and please attend our meetings. We always have very engaging meetings, hearings, and we want to hear more from you. We provide language access, and the more you come, the more you engage, the more inclusive our recommendations will be. Just want to emphasize that. So now I will conclude this part of the item, and
Sure.
Yes, Director Rivas.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I just also want to provide some closing remarks on this special topic today, if that's okay with the chair and the commissioners.
Yes.
So just also, because there's a lot of thank yous I want to do, I just focus on the thank yous. So thank you all for being part of this important discussion. Thank you to Commissioner Obregon for your leadership and the topic and bringing us all together to make sure that we are providing the accurate and the right information to community and all of us. The special meeting has been a moment for us to come together, to listen, to reflect, and to chart recommendations on how we want to move forward. All with the goal of creating concrete actions needed to ensure San Francisco continues to stand by its values as a city of refuge and opportunity for all. What I've heard today reinforces that our work is ongoing, and that it depends on partnership, accountability, but with a lot of care.
Mm-hmm.
The issues raised this evening are not abstract. They affect real families, our real communities, and the future of the city. And while the challenges are complex, the strength and commitment of San Francisco's immigrant community and those who stand with them remains very strong. The Immigrant Rights Commission plays a vital role in keeping immigrant voices at the center of city decision-making. And OSEA is proud to continue working alongside you to turn today's conversations into meaningful action. Thank you to the commissioners for your leadership. Thank you to our community partners in the advocacy and the insight they brought today, and to all the speakers who presented from city agencies and our community partners. To OSEA staff who have made this meeting possible, in particular Commissioner Clerk Shore, who has done a lot of behind the scenes planning and coordination, our interpreters who make sure that everyone in the community can participate actively in these types of meetings, to everyone who provided public testimony in person and or in writing, and to everyone who continues to show up to make San Francisco a city where every person feels safe, supported, and seen. Thank you again for this great conversation today. Back to you, Chair.
Thank you, Director Rivas. Concluding this item, so we can move to item 5, which is proposed resolution on detention of immigrants. This item, I will pass to Commissioner Obregon, but we did have extensive discussion on this item. So Commissioner Obregon, floor is yours.
Thank you, and thank you for to the executive committee to help me move this forward. This resolution is on denouncing the unlawful detention of immigrants and reaffirming the San Francisco's commitment to protecting all residents from persecution. You should all have a copy of it in your notes. Perhaps I can give you a few minutes to read it. This has gone to a couple of reiterations, and I appreciate the executive committee for helping me make edits, and as well as Director Rivas and staff for making sure that this is a resolution we can all stand behind on. I think collectively, or the main point of this is really condemning the detention of law-abiding immigrants at courthouses and in our city. And it calls upon all city departments and officials to uphold the sanctuary values of the city by ensuring that no local resources are used to aid or abet immigration enforcement actions at or near court facilities or in the city of San Francisco. The commission urges the mayor, the board of supervisors, and all relevant agencies to take immediate action to strengthen the protections for immigrants, including but not limited to increasing support for community defense through the local rapid response network, immigration legal service, public defender's office, and community education organizing efforts.
Thank you. Commissioners, do you have any comments pertaining to the resolution?
If I may, Chair. I was just kind of wondering, for process-wise, would we be able to continue to provide more input? Because especially coming from today's hearing, I feel like we hear a lot of good, idea input from the community. So because I think we're, as Commissioner Obregon had said early on, we really want to consider and taking those into consideration. I kind of wondering, process-wise, would we be able to have some time to include some of those input from the community into this resolutions? Just kind of curious about that. Yeah.
I mean, process, I think we could, if you want, have a friendly amendment. You could.
So when there's a possibility to either write a friendly amendments today, or also if the majority of you, and it's okay with Commissioner Obregon, we can continue the item and bring it back at the next meeting, and that's where it can be voted on, especially if there's substantial amendments or changes people would like to see to the resolution.
Vice Chair Chaudhry.
Thank you so much. I actually think that we should go ahead with the resolution today, just as how it's drafted. And if we have like friendly amendments, I think we can suggest those friendly amendments. That is to say, I have a friendly amendment if you'd be open to it, Commissioner Obregon. I was thinking to add after paragraph 7, and the reason why I want to make this amendment is because we heard a lot from the community today, and I want the resolution today to reflect a bit of what we heard today. And the amendment is, whereas these separations discourage immigrant communities from accessing basic resources like education, medical care, prenatal care, and undermines San Francisco's sanctuary city ordinance. Because even if people are getting detained at court or when they're just going for a basic check-in, just the fear in itself, I believe, is discouraging people across San Francisco from accessing basic resources. So I think that maybe with this amendment, we can make the resolution a bit more reflective. Yeah.
Any other comments? So are you making a motion and proposing language, or is that just a comment?
Friendly amendment.
Friendly
I think
amendment.
we'll need a motion.
Okay, so, yeah.
So today we have,
So I
have
would
a-
need a motion to,
Would you need a, okay.
Not for the-
No, you're not.
sorry.
is it just friendly amendment? Okay. Okay. Go ahead, Commissioner.
Yeah, today we have a comment from the public, right, about deportation about pregnant women. Do you have anything adding about in here?
You can propose something to be added.
Yeah, because I saw on the public too, right, like pregnant women's deportation, and they don't have providing about, like that building is 630 today.
630 Samsung.
And then I heard about some news like a pregnant woman's deportation, and then they're not providing, and then she very like breathing a lot, and then they're not providing like nursing or anything. So.
Oh, they're not,
Yes, yeah.
they're not providing adequate accommodations at 630 Samsung. Yeah. I think that perhaps I can say that maybe we can take 2 weeks to
I'm sorry, because
add
today we
any
got
other
hearing too,
suggestions.
yeah, that's
Because
why.
I do agree, like, I think we could add this simple amendment.
Mhm.
But if we wanted to expand to then cover everything that we just heard today, I'm okay with us doing that work of recommending and having a final draft, since it's 2 weeks from now. If it was like more than that, I'd be like, no, but since it's 2 weeks that we're coming back, I think that it's an appropriate time for us to then just expand on it and then vote on it on November 10th. If I could have your commitment to hopefully have a decision by November 10th.
I again recommend that we, continue this resolution, and I allow for time, at least that way we're taking some action, and following up with your intent to take some immediate action. So Director Rivas, what would be the best process for this? When do you need the amendments by?
So just for process sake, I think if the item is continued, we would need to publish the agenda by Friday of the week before the meeting, so November 7th, which means that we would need to have your amendments by no latest the 5th, so we can make sure that we are ready to publish.
So November 5th would be, okay. So if we can all submit our amendments to OSEA team, Director Rivas, and Clerk Shore by November 5th, so we can meet, the deadline and post the agenda on time. And that way we can vote in November on the resolution. Is there any additional comments related to the resolution at this moment? Okay, well, thank you, Commissioner Obregon, for your work. Exceptional work today, the hearing and the resolution. I just want to express my gratitude, as, a DACA recipient, it's challenging to navigate this time, and, also think how we can all fight for our community. So thank you for all your leadership, Vice Chair Chowdhury, Commissioner Farah, Commissioner Reese, Commissioner Paz, Abdu, Ang, and our newest, more recent Commissioner Audran? Yeah, correct. My apologies. And then Commissioner Abdu, who had to leave early as well. Thank you. So now since we don't have to make any motions or take any actions, I'm just going to move to public comment on this item. Do we have any public comment on item 5? I don't see any public comments, so I will move to item 6, which is adjournment. So again, thank you, fellow commissioners, for this meeting today. We learned a lot, and we look forward to continue taking action. And thank you, OSEA team, interpreters, and everyone. But also, again, I want to encourage the public to continue attending our meetings and participating. Send your public comment. We need your voice to ensure that we have the most inclusive recommendations to be submitted to the mayor and the board of supervisors. So thank you. Have a good night. Meeting is adjourned.
Thank you all.
Chair.